9 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today, our planning commissioner, Bill is out. Lori Litson will be attending via Skype. And with her attending by Skype, items of the votes will have to be roll call. So anyway, so Jerry, if you'd note Lori's attendance by Skype and Bill absent today. And Deb is representing the county commissioners. Approval of the January 9th minutes. They're in our packet. Anyone have any additions, corrections, deletions? If not, entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I guess roll call.
Lori?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Sig?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
The minutes are accepted. Approval agenda, today's items. For the audience, if you haven't picked up the agenda, in the back bookshelf, there are copies of the agenda if you would like to get a copy. Anyway, today's items are items 1 through 21. Does anyone have any additions or rearranging of the agenda that they're requested from the Planning Commission? Any items? Not, entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Jerry.
Lori?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Sig?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Consent calendar. The following items have been placed on the consent calendar for action to be taken on all items in accordance with the staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by the planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The finding of this planning commission are recommendations to the county board of commissioners who will make the final decision. And I also note that also on conditional use permits, unless they're appealed to the county, this is the final decision on conditional use permits unless they're appealed. So anyway, with that, today's consent calendar is items 3 through 11. PJ, if you could read them for the record.
Sure. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Item number 3, conditional use permit review 7104 for David and Andrea Allard to review a mobile home park in a general commercial district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 7104 with 9 conditions. Item number 4, conditional use permit review 9536 for Eugene and Marcia Pluth to review a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends the extension of conditional use permit 9536 with 7 conditions. Item 5, conditional use permit review 0065 for Joyce Metz, Kathy Little Bull as the agent to review a caretaker's residence in the limited agriculture district. Staff recommends to continue the review of conditional use permit 0065 to the February 13th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting. Item 6, conditional use permit review 1040 for Jane Hying-Bilka to review a home occupation in an accessory structure in a general agriculture district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1040 with 9 conditions. Item 7, conditional use permit review 1435 for Brad Nibel to review a multifamily dwelling in a suburban residential district and to rent out the home in the basement in accordance with section 208 and 510. Staff recommends to continue the review of conditional use permit 1435 to the February 13th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting. Item 8, conditional use permit review 1537, Peaceful Valley Hideaway LLC, William and Valerie Landis, to review a vacation home rental in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1537 with 16 conditions. Item 9, construction permit 1701, City of Rapid City, Banner Associates as the agent to open cut and bore installation of PVC pipe for water main extension for the City of Rapid City on Winton Street North and Southside Drive east of Redemption Road. Staff recommends approval of construction permit 1701 with 11 conditions. Item 10, construction permit 1702, professional excavation to install a new water and sewer lines from County Road on the west end to Kyle Street on the north end across existing agricultural land. Staff recommends approval of construction permit 1702 with 10 conditions. Item 11, an ordinance amendment 1603 by Pennington County to amend section 103, 204C, 205B and C, 206B, 207B, 208B, 209B, 210B, 211B, 212B, 213B, 312, 314C, 316H3, 508B4, 509D3, 510A3, 511B, and 511W2. Staff recommends to continue ordinance amendment 1603 to February 27th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.
Does the staff wish to pull any of the items?
9.
Okay. Anyone from the planning commission wishing to pull any items? From the audience, any of the items that were just read from the consent calendar, 3 through 11? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the consent calendar, items 3 through 8, and 10 and 11, excluding 9.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, I guess, Jerry, roll call.
Lori,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Sig,
Aye.
Travis,
Aye.
Barbara.
Aye.
Motion, consent calendar is approved. That will take us then to item 9.
Thank you.
Brittany Molitor. For item 9, the only thing I just want to do a point of clarification for, on page 2, under proposed recommendation, it should read 11 conditions and not 10.
And I will be abstaining. My employer is an agent for the city on this project, so I'll be abstaining from voting. Any other questions for Brittany on this item?
That's the only concern that the planning commission has with regards to item 11,
9?
or item 9, excuse me.
Yes.
Is the
That-
11 conditions instead of
Yes,
10?
I just wanted to correct that.
Okay, thank you.
I'd entertain staff's recommendation for his approval with 11 conditions.
Move to approve CP 17-01 with 11 conditions.
Second.
Motion and second, further discussion? Hearing none, Jerry, roll call.
Who seconded that?
Travis.
Lori,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Sig,
I'm abstaining.
Travis,
Aye.
Barbara.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Thank you.
I'll take us to item 12.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Chutima from Planning Department. Item 12 is the conditional use permit 1644 to allow a vacation home rental on the subject property in General Agriculture District. The applicant are Ellison and Nicholas Dupont. The local contact is Otherwise Mountain Lodging. Both applicant and the local contact are in the audience. The current zoning is General Agriculture District. And the existing conditions, the subject properties consist of 2 lots. Lot 1 is 0.53 acre and lot 2 is 0.48 acres. These lots are considered developmental lot, which defined in section 103 as 2 or more lots or portion of lots with continuous frontage in single ownership of record prior to February 1st, 1994, where or part of the lots do not meet the requirements established for lot width and area, which for the purpose of the zoning ordinance shall be considered to be an undivided lot. The The on-site wastewater treatment system has an active operating permit, COOP 160188. The Lot 1 contains a single-family residence and a attached garage. Lot 2 consists of 11 by 14 shed with no building permit on file. The applicant and the local contact have been made aware that this shed doesn't have a building permit. The applicant stated that they intend to remove this shed out of the property once the weather is permitted, and the removal permit must be obtained prior to the removal. Lot 2 also contains on-site wastewater treatment system and a drain field. So the routing comment from the other department, the one concern is from the coordinator county addressing coordinator regarding to the address. She has requested to have an address post at another location with directional arrow on it because the driveway is very long and it's difficult to find if you're not familiar with the area. Okay. The applicant obtained a letter from the South Dakota DENR to allow a maximum overnight occupancy of 6 people. The applicant also obtained a vacation home rental license, but it expired in December 31st, 2016. Right now, the applicants are waiting for they submitted the renewal form and they are waiting for the new license to come, which a copy will be provided to our department when it arrives. Okay. And consideration for conditional use permit request. The zoning ordinance lists 5 factors that the planning commission may consider in their review of conditional use permit application. They are as follows. Number 1, the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the uses already permitted and upon property values within the immediate vicinity. This conditional use permit should not change the established use of the property and thus should not have any long-term negative effect on the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity or have significant impact to the property values in the surrounding area. Number 2, the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. Allowing this conditional use permit should not affect the normal or orderly development or improvement of any surrounding vacant property in the area. Number 3, that utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or other necessary facilities are provided. All necessary facilities appear to be in place. Number 4, that the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. The applicant has a detached 2-car garage and parking space in front of the garage, which appears to be sufficient parking on the subject property. Number 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, inclusive of lighted sign, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. The proposed conditional use by its very nature should have limited odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibrations, and intrusive lighting. The applicant should take care so that the proposed use should not create the above listed elements in any amount that would constitute a nuisance. Staff recommends approval of conditional use permit CU 1644 with 17 conditions.
Questions from the planning commission for Chitima? I have a couple questions. Since it's developmental lot, is it taxed as a single lot?
I am not sure.
It likely has two separate tax IDs right now. Equalization recently has been going through and separating developmental lots to have two separate tax IDs. So it's probably taxed under two different ones, but by our standards in our zoning ordinance, it would still be considered developmental.
So from your aspect, it does meet the 1 acre for vacation home rentals?
This one is the application was submitted prior to the new vacation home rental ordinance.
But it's being approved
routine.
under the new one?
And this one's in general ag.
Yeah. You only need that.
Oh,
if
yeah,
you're-
Suburban
suburban
residential,
residential,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Yep. I guess the other question I have, or issue I have is, we've discussed this before, and I thought we were leaning towards when there's something, action needs to be taken to accomplish approval, that action should be taken before approval instead of approving, what I'm talking about is a shed. We're saying, we're gonna approve it now, and, it's on your good will to basically remove the shed, and we've come back a year later, and items like that haven't been taken care of. And so, I thought we were moving more in the direction of not approving it until all items are cleaned up. And I thought for consistency, that's, if anything, this should be continued until that either a construction permit is pulled for that shed or that the shed is removed and a removal permit obtained.
Yep, you're correct. We have had discussions on that. If you'd like, staff would even welcome a motion to that effect and would actually appreciate that motion.
Okay. Other questions from the planning commission? From the audience, any comments? I have several. Please wait to be recognized and come to the podium, and if you're going to speak, you have to come to the podium and state your name for the record.
Joyce Shagru, public member. I have some questions. They're procedural because of the transition between the old ordinance and the new. And my first question was, this application date was prior to January 11th, which was the effective date for the new ordinance. And my first question was going to be, which ordinance did you apply? Okay, the answer was the old ordinance. However, if you will look, under the conditions that have been proposed, number 1 is from the new ordinance on the number of day people allowed. Because under the old ordinance, it was the number of overnight guests plus 1/2 that number. And the new ordinance is the number of night guests plus double that number. And that's what is in number 1. Under the old ordinance, it would have been 9 people and total, the 6 plus 3. Under this condition, it's the 6 plus 12.
Miss,
So
Shagru,
that's
if
the
you
new
look-
ordinance.
Without interrupting, the DENR also, if you look, they put a stipulation on it,
Yes,
so.
I know for the 6. That's not the
Yeah.
question. The question is the day guests, because that was what was changed in the new ordinance, is the day guests. So the new ordinance was applied in the conditions, not the old ordinance. And as I was working through it, I thought, well, the effective date is prior to January 11th, but the hearing date is after the effective date. So now I am confused and would like an answer to that. My second question,
Well,
Okay.
let's answer it. PJ, if you wouldn't mind. I guess my interpretation, and I guess I'd like clarification too, but my understanding, nothing's accepted until it's acted on. So today would be the date of the conditions.
Yeah, I would go with the conditions. I think staff just misspoke.
okay, so the reason I'm asking the questions is because I want them on the record. because I think there may be questions in the future. So then with what you're saying now, PJ, is you would want to apply the new ordinance to this, not the old?
If it's getting approved today.
Yeah, okay. And there's no problem with that. It's just a procedural question.
Well, no, I think it's worth clarifying, but to me, it's not acted on until it's acted on, so, so it'd be the date it's acted on.
Yeah,
so.
that seemed logical to me too until they answered no the other way. Then I noted something, and this I didn't see taken care of in the conditions or anywhere else. On the vacation home rental checklist, the applicant did not check that they acknowledged the fire safety standards. And I didn't see that taken care of in the conditions.
Yep, I'm looking at it, yeah.
So that's a technical question. Maybe I didn't know where to look.
Did they have anything from the fire department, PJ?
Hold on, she's got it. So it's taken, there you go, you can say it.
Okay, so there's a different form.
Hi, did you have a different from when the Department of Health inspect the property? So it's in, so after the checklist, they will have a Department Health which mean that the applicant already acknowledged the fire safety survey. Have you find
Have
the?
approval? Okay.
Yeah, that answers that question, so it's in there. Then, Mr. Chairman, I have a general question, if you will allow it, that's not specific to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
But does relate. Do I have permission? Okay.
Go ahead, yes.
I noticed that this first one has the two lots, which together equal 1 acre. So if we are applying the new ordinance.
Well, and I guess I missed that.
Oh, it's general ag.
Yes.
Yes, general ag, so it doesn't apply, the 1 acre only applies to suburban residential.
Right.
Okay. Then, well, no, it applies to other than suburban residential. It applies to low-density residential. There's 4 zoning districts, I think, that it applies to, not just suburban residential.
PJ, can you clarify that for us?
Because we made them all equal.
Yep. Regardless, it has to be over 1 acre.
Okay,
Yes.
And this property, under our definition of developmental lot, is considered one property and is over 1 acre.
So general ag in the future also requires 1 acre, is that correct?
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think there were 4 zoning districts that didn't. We made it equal, so it was fair. There was no discrimination between zoning districts. So then my question is applicable. So the developmental lot is an accepted lot, okay? 2 put together, they're defined as a developmental lot, and it's very clear what they are. Have to be designated prior to 1994 and so forth. So is this the only, is a developmental lot the only instance when 2 lots combined would be considered together?
I believe so, maybe that's more of a legal question. But
'Cause it's-
my understanding, I mean, I know there's even lots in the city, and I'm sure in the county too, where, well, I think even Silver City, you bought 50 or 25-foot wide strips, as many strips as you wanted to make your lot, and the houses are a lot of times over those lot lines that were established.
And it's
back then.
purposeful, because a 25-foot lot is not buildable,
Right.
really. So it's very common to have 2 lots. Now, I've not called them developmental lots, but maybe they are according to the county standard.
Well, that's why I asked about the tax question. I think
Yeah,
it's clearer if it's a developmental lot, if it's taxed as a single lot.
Yeah, because why wouldn't someone combine them into 1 lot? What's the disadvantage? Is there a disadvantage to the county of having them made into 1 lot, or a disadvantage to the property owner to have them made into 1 lot? Why, for example, this lot, I see now, I didn't see it before, but I see now the structure is on 1 lot. There's a shed or outbuilding on the other lot. So they were able to build, however wide that lot is, they were able to build on one lot. You can only have one residence on a lot. So they could have built where that shed is on that other lot. So could they do that under the developmental? I take it they couldn't.
They couldn't have
They
vacation
couldn't.
home rental because it has to be on an acre, so if they split it. They also did, and you know why they did the acre.
Yes, I know,
Is because
yes.
of on-site wastewater and well. That way, in the future, if you have general ag and someone sells their land as low-density residential later, that at least if they have vacation home rentals on there, they have them far enough apart from people, and I think the acre
Yeah,
made
and-
sense.
Yeah, and I understand that.
So if you combine the lot, I think it's a positive, both, that's my feeling, for a lot of things.
And combine it into one lot.
Right, or I have a split lot and then I just put one property on there. A lot of times, like I said, they're gonna discontinue that vacation home rental, and I don't think they'll do that just to put another house on it.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair,
Barb?
you zeroed in on exactly my question, Joyce. So I would like to know if the applicant understands they can never build on that second lot and have a vacation home rental. It's either or.
Yeah, we can get to that.
Yeah, and that actually is my final question
Okay.
as well. Could they, because it's not written in the vacation home rental ordinance, because the thought in our mind was 1 acre. And that was, of course, I know what it was based on, but density was the concern. So we were thinking 1 acre lots, not 2 lots that equal 1 acre or more. So could, if we take this one, it's 1 acre together, so it has to remain together. They can't build on that second lot because then they have circumvented the intent of the ordinance.
And the
So that's
conditional-
my question, and there may not be an answer for it. It may need further discussion.
Well, part of it is, it's had to be handled as one ownership since before 94, so it's not that they did it just for this action. So
Yeah.
I think that's a major distinction.
For this one,
Right,
but
for this
are there
one.
others in the future where they could come in with 2 lots?
If they were acted on as 2 lots before 94.
If they were developmental lots, but what if they weren't? Is that in writing if they weren't?
Well, then they don't meet the 1 acre requirement.
Right, and the conditional use is, the minute they violate the conditional use and they split that lot or they build something on that lot, they're no longer 1 acre, their conditional use goes away, Joyce.
Okay, so my question was for clarification and really for discussion, and then I'll bring out some other points under public comment. Thank you.
It may be worthwhile for us to add a condition to that, if the developmental lots are split, that the conditional use is automatically revoked.
Okay, then that would take care of it.
It probably should be added on that. I think that's a worthwhile.
Yeah, that would take care of it. And then, the reason I wanted to ask these questions so that they were in the public record, because then we can go back and reference them if we need to in the future. Thank you.
I have a question, not for Ms. Shagru, thank you,
Oh,
Ms. Shagru.
not for me, though.
Just a question, to continue this because of a shed, I think you could put it as a condition to give them 10 days to remove the shed, or how many days it takes to remove the shed, instead of shutting people down. And then when they don't do that, they know that their conditional use permit is gonna be revoked if they don't have it done. I think that's simpler than making people continue their permits or their things they need to get done. There's gotta be a better solution than continuing them for 2 more weeks.
Oh, I concur.
Are you
with that.
suggesting adding it as a, like a
It
number
should-
18 or 19 under the
Yeah,
conditions?
give them a certain amount of time, that reflects how long it would take, we
Well,
can ask the
they have an
applicant.
option of coming in and paying for a construction permit today,
Right,
and it'd be resolved. So I mean, they have options that they could have been. So if they're wanting leeway, to me, we've been caught before, where we say, you know, you go ahead and approve this, and we're gonna assume you're gonna get it done, and it doesn't get done.
well, let's not get caught, and let's put it as a condition, because if you're gonna take my conditional use permit, I'm gonna do a lot faster than I just gonna be inspected later.
Well, I could support that if it had a time frame on it, rather than just being open-ended that you have to get it done, so.
PJ, are you okay with that, or is there a problem with that?
We see 10 times more of the ones than you see. There's a lot of instances where, like what Sig is saying, is it would be much better that it doesn't come to you until everything is resolved.
Yeah.
And then there are some instances where if it's just a shed, possibly, we're not gonna go out there again for another year. That shed could still be there.
Put
Then technically, they're
consequences.
not meeting their conditions, and staff could recommend that it end.
But if you're going to take my income away off my rental property because of a shed, I think that's a lot different
But they have no
than just saying
guarantee
your
that-
shed, you're not taking somebody's house away if they didn't do the shed. Does that make sense?
Well, but they don't have any right to expect income because they have no knowledge that we're going to approve it. So there's not a true expectation, they shouldn't have a true expectation that they're gonna get automatic income.
It's a vacation home rental, Sig.
But I do know that we require a lot of other people to move other sheds away from property lines and things of that nature before we allow them to do something else that's going to be a moneymaker for their business. So if we're gonna stay consistent, I think we do need to do something that is gonna be consistent, either add the 20-day, but if we add 20 days, if we add it as a condition, say in 20 days you have to remove it, we don't go back out there for a site visit, do we?
Staff would have to go back out there.
Staff
or
would
re-
have to
Or
go.
request photo evidence of it.
Does
It
this,
requires us to touch the report one more time, and the fewer times we touch it, the better. If we can do it before it even comes to you, that would be desirable.
I guess just, I think in the last couple of years, we have been fairly consistent in saying that things have to be taken care of before approval.
yeah, but if it's something that simple, to me, that's,
We've had things that simple.
yeah. But there's got to be some kind of consequence with not doing it. Instead of, if you have that lingering over your head over a shed that you're going to be pulled or they could pull it, I think that's a consequence, that they would do it a lot faster. Otherwise, all you're doing is having people come again and again and again for stuff, and I don't think to me, that's a process that we're trying to do less than.
I would agree that if it's, we can do it, so it's administratively, except if there's a timeline set or something like that, that's fairly short. Even if it's 14 days, which would be the same as a continuance, and basically they, can't rent it until that is met.
Right.
I mean, there are instances, and using the shed as an example, there are some that have gone on 2 or 3 times where they still haven't done what the conditions have done, but the planning commission has given them those chances. And so we do appreciate that if,
Yeah.
where you guys are moving, if you're looking to take care of it before it even comes before you, I think that's a better way to go.
Well, did you tell the people to eliminate the shed before they get this permit? Or why would you eliminate the shed when maybe they don't get the permit and they can sell the shed with the house? I wouldn't take my shed down until it was gonna,
Well, that, like I'm saying, it could be, I agree, we could put a time frame on there and that basically the permit isn't approved until that action is taken.
there you go.
And that's fine.
Okay. I believe we had some other people in the audience and the applicant wishing to speak, or do you have any comments? Anything you wanted to add? Or? Please state your names for the record.
I'm Jana Emmel. This is my husband, Randy Berger.
Randy Berger.
And we own the property adjacent to the west of this property. I've learned a lot sitting here for these few minutes. And I guess, is there any opportunity to say, it's more than just whether or not you should grant something on an acre of land? I mean, one of the issues here is we are densely forested on that hill behind them. And we had experience, we've lived in our home for 23 years. It's our permanent home. We live there full time. Before, I think you had a lot of rules for rentals. About 15 years ago, that our neighbor was renting that place out nightly. And they were shooting fireworks off the deck on the 4th of July. We're concerned about, even though they say there are conditions and that sort of thing, we're concerned about actual use of the property and how it could affect us. Because we've seen some negative things, even with Edelweiss Mountain Lodging that is coordinating this. We went by one of their properties this summer and during the fire ban, and their guests were using fire pits. So I just have a concern about really the caretaking of a property when it's being rented out nightly.
Last November, there was a fire that somebody started adjacent on the mountain there, and we had to have 4 to 6 fire trucks in there until 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's a major concern of ours as well. The other end of our valley, Edelweiss Mountain Lodging has a house down there. And last year, there was over 20 cars at that house with large fires going and parties going. So that's one of our concerns, is the forest.
I guess,
They're surrounded by private ownership that aren't renting their homes out. The property to the east of them is owned by a firefighting archaeologist guy who doesn't live here, and I know their driveway or their road actually crosses his property, and he gave an easement to a former owner. Now, I don't know if the Planning Commission ran across that at all, but I know one of his conditions was it's not a nightly rental. I don't know what the status is of that easement. I don't know if you ran across that when you were looking at any of that. So I'd like to know that. I'd like to talk to that property owner to see if that was the case, but their driveway does go over somebody else's property there.
They also are at the end of that street. There's only one way in and one way out. We've been there for many years, so we've known who's lived there before, and there really isn't very much room for vehicle parking up there.
A lot of your concerns that you brought up have been brought up during the general hearing process on the vacation home rentals, and I mean, a lot of, debate back and forth on the issues, but, we do have a new vacation home rental or revised one, and some of those issues were discussed, but, basically, you do have, if you do see something, we always have that condition in there, it's reviewed, in this case, in 1 year or on a complaint basis. I mean, as soon as there's a complaint, it would trigger, that being reviewed, so looked at.
Mr. Chair,
Barb.
I think you should know that the complaints have to come to the Planning and Zoning Department. Other people in the past, we found, have called the sheriff's office, and it never gets to where the complaints should get. So when you see these violations, you need to call Planning and Zoning and make sure they register them.
And Mr. Chair, I might add on that, if they're doing something that's dangerous or that is in violation of any burn ban, you do need to call the sheriffs for, to have them recognize it so they can come out and take care of it. But then also you have to register the complaint with the planning and zoning.
Right.
So that we have record of it so that we can act upon it.
Right.
And we want to act upon it, We really are interested in enforcing the planning and the vacation home rental code. I think I speak for everybody on that.
But unless you have specific, that this applicant is a bad actor, and of ill repute or something like that, and they're following the guidelines there, and especially in general ag, there isn't really a good basis to deny them.
Okay, so in other words, we need to have a formal complaint and a proof of something happening. My saying that Edelweiss Mountain Lodging was allowing campfires during a fire ban doesn't mean anything unless
And Mike is
there's
a
a
very
formal
good
complaint.
enforcer for our, he goes in and looks, actually not enforcer, because he's just really nice, but he's gonna look for those fires, and he's gonna, if you meet Mike, he was in the military, he's very kind, but he has no problem saying it like it is. So if you see these complaints, he's gonna go look and see if there's a fire, because you can't hide a fire.
Yeah.
You can't hide if in the morning they have 15 people and he goes over there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, once they violate, you come in, you tell PJ or the planning department, Mike goes and checks and see if these allegations are correct. Their conditional use permit is done. No more vacation home rental for at least a year.
Commissioner, and pictures would be helpful, wouldn't they?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And might I add, it
don't-
doesn't matter if it's a business either. I mean, if your neighbor is violating something like that. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, I
So,
know
I
where
mean,
that-
just to sit there and
We've had
assume
to be
that.
the little fire cops around the neighborhood and go talk to. But
What
for us, it's, we're trying to be a neighborly person because we've been
Yeah,
around
that's
and we
hard.
know all these people. So for our first deal was we're gonna stop and talk to Edelweiss Mountain Lodging to say, hey, there's fire ban, but nobody was there. to talk to. So
Well,
that was our first approach. Obviously, that's a mistake. We should have blown the whistle, whatever.
And they've got a
but-
phone number to contact.
And there was a lot of discussion in the process of revising the vacation home rental, and that was a major concern is, people out of town coming in and not knowing local laws on fire
I don't
bans
blame
and
the
things.
tourists. They
Yeah.
don't know all the
But-
rules.
And we do put it on the backs of the person doing the vacation home rental. They are certifying that they're informing their occupants, or their renters, that they are, what the ordinances are. They should have them posted.
Well,
If- and if
like
they're
I
not-
say, these campfires are right next to Edelweiss Mountain Lodging office.
It's right on their
Right
office
next to 'em,
land.
right on their land, so.
Well, then, now you know the recourse.
Now I know what to do, yeah.
Well, when the
And
forest
it
is
works-
gone, we're all gone.
Yeah,
It-
hope it's not too late.
It works a lot better than the sheriff's, because the sheriff, not that the sheriff won't do anything, but if you want to make a permanent issue with it instead of just a complaint, and I don't know if you want to go take pictures on somebody else's land, unless you have their permission, because that's trespassing, but I would just send the code enforcement guy for our city, which is Mike, out there and say, they had fires, you can tell, blah, 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 so. And we want it for health, safety, and welfare anyway, so we want to make sure the neighbors are taken care of around those properties as well, because the applicant should comply with these rules, and if they're not,
Right.
we have revocation on them, so.
And I've got, I guess, my sense is this planning commission wants to be more proactive on enforcing when there's non-compliance and revoking permits.
But to do so, we have to have the evidence to do
Right.
so.
And Barb made a very good point, and I'll, reiterate what she said is, make sure, even if you call the sheriff's department, make sure you're copying or, also informing the planning department.
Okay.
We
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi there. My name is John Leach. I'm a neighboring property owner. My mother's back here. She's also a neighboring property owner. Have several other relatives that own lots in the area. As Randy and Jana mentioned, and you guys were very good at pointing out, we need evidence. These incidents, I know the one with the big bonfire was reported to the sheriff's. I'm sure there's a sheriff's report on it. My property is right across from Randy and Jana's, right up behind that barn. And so it's the valley that comes up from Black Forest Inn that goes right up around. So we have the valley that comes up through there. At the risk of sounding selfish, that's why I'm here to try and point out some of the deficiencies here, is because this land has been in my family for well over 40 years, and we work very hard. We are countlessly asked to rent our cabin to people, and we don't do that. This is a place for solitude. We like to get away up there. Our neighbors are very much the same way. Our whole neighborhood is really nice. The rental property that they're talking about at the far end of it is on one end, and then they have another one closer to Black Forest Inn. I have to deal with the four-wheelers. I've actually gone to the point of stopping at Black Hills Edelweiss, telling them, hey, this is private property. It is not a right-of-way for your four-way rental, if your four-wheelers to rent and come through, and tear. I constantly have to fight that. I put up signs, and my next option is just to fence off the whole valley, which I hate to do because we'd like to be able, our neighbors, to go up and down it, okay? Evidence. I have photographs where the four-wheelers have destroyed the top of my septic tank driving through there, okay? I've got a septic tank that's been there for the 40 years. It's a very good one. It's 1,000 gallons, okay? I'm grandfathered in. That's ours. We were put there. Somebody destroys my septic tank, and then I'm up against not having a septic tank because we're within the 100 feet of Clear Creek. You see what I'm saying here? Somebody crushes me and it's a done deal. Then I can't put my septic tank back in. It's good now and it's great there. And I guess my point being is we're just up against this all the time. And we have tried to deal with them and be on a kind basis to say, please inform your renters that they're not supposed to be driving up and down the valley. And I guess that's I'm here just to say that I really wish you would not do this. Or maybe ask for a continuance for us to gather our evidence to be in here next Monday. I travel. Today's a bad day for me. I got this notice when I was out of town just last Wednesday. I could sure put I have photographs of the damage that's been done to my property. We could get police reports from the sheriff's department. The fire that they were talking about, there was over 30 cars there. They had a bonfire going. Come on.
If I could ask, is the bonfire and the four-wheelers you're talking about from
It's
this?
it's the rental group. It's Edelweiss Mountain Rentals. It's their rental on the end that had that, and then they also have one by Black Forest Inn closer down. I have to deal with the four-wheelers coming from there up and down. And the house on the other end, it's just a party house.
From this property?
Yeah, because the valley goes all the way down. I guess you don't have a very good map, but it's.
Can you see that?
Okay, yeah, well, see the lots, it comes right straight through. Picture Edelweiss, Black Forest Road right there, Edelweiss Mountain. That real long stretch right there, that's all the open meadow. It comes right up and hooks up with Clear Creek Road. It goes right on out this way, out onto Edelweiss Mountain. So initially, that is just a valley that goes right on through there. When you pull into Black Forest Inn and you look to the west, the highline, you can actually see the valley start. And that's what's so inviting to the people on the four-wheelers there. They don't know. As Janice says, my goodness, they're tourists. They've come out here and they love the hills. And you would love to be.
If you could spec up to Mike so it gets picked up for the record.
No, I mean, it's a type.
I have a question. It was a rental before, not a vacation home rental, right? They've rented it as a house? Any of those that you're talking about were rental houses or vacation home
That I know
rentals?
of, they never were. The Hubers, this property that we're talking about was initially in our road district. They pulled that out of our road district and gave the other easement from the east, as Jana mentioned, for them to get into this.
And it's been a vacation home rental?
No, it's been a
hasn't-
home. It was, the Hubers lived there till they sold it. Now, Randy and Jana might be able to answer. Yes, I think in the last year or so, people have been renting it. I mean, you go up there, lights are on, doors open. It just doesn't make sense. But
As a vacation home rental or a rental house?
no idea. Oh, no. Vacation home rental. I don't believe there's anybody been living there renting to live there. Just an overnight rental, yeah.
This property that we're specific.
Yeah.
The shed you're talking about down below is actually a horse barn. Hubers originally put that in, the man that got the easement from the east, and I think that should be looked at very well too, because if that easement was done right, this should be null and void, what we're talking about. Him getting the easement in on a condition that it's never to be used as a rental. That should be run in perpetuity. And that's just me, but maybe not.
Sorry, just as a point of fact, this is the Amendment Right-of-Way of Easement, Book 77, page 1711 from 1999, page 1 of 2. This easement is a private access easement for the use of owners, agents, permittees, and invitees of property B, intended to run with the land and to incorporate any accommodations, any and all residential uses, including rentals, on property B, et cetera, et cetera.
So it is allowed?
Yes.
So that
So I just
wasn't put
wanted
in
to-
there? Oh,
I just wanted to
thank you.
stop that.
No problem, thank you.
Well, one thing
Appreciate
I
it.
guess I'd point out, I think we've been frustrated not only in your area, but all throughout the hills is the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides. And the thing that we're running into, it's not, everyone likes to point the finger at the renters, and that's very possible. But there's a lot of residents that are running four-wheelers and side-by-sides also, and so, I mean, it's hard to differentiate. And it's becoming a major issue in the hills.
It is. And I guess we just have to follow it by law, just have them arrested and charged with trespassing every time it comes along. The only other thing I would like to point out, and I would honestly be here if it was Randy and Jana asking to rent their house that have been there for all these years. It'd be hard for me, but if they honestly needed it to pay taxes, people wanting to rent their summer homes that they've worked hard for, I could go along with it. I just want to point out, and this might be their private thing, but we're dealing with realtors here. These people are realtors. If they're just parking money into a house to rent for a while till it's ready to sell, it's kind of a bad deal. And I might be all wrong in saying that, probably am. Maybe they are doing it for their own personal deal, but
That was argued during the vacation home rental revisions too, on a house versus a home.
yeah.
A vacation home rental, or is it a vacation house rental, but,
Or is it
anyway,
a place where I park money for a few months till I can sell it and get my money back?
But the way the ordinances are right now, it would allow it, so.
Right. I know, like I say, at the risk of sounding selfish, I'm just here,
I
I just hope that you really look close and think about it, because I guess we will have to be forced to handle it, like you say, just in having people arrested and go from there.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
Yeah, Lori, go ahead.
actually, go ahead, Lori.
Excuse me.
Mr. Chair, can I ask the gentleman a question?
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the incidents that you're describing, are they related to this property?
No, ma'am, they're related to rentals,
Okay, so the incidents that you described are related to the rentals that Edelweiss Mountain Management, manages?
Correct, that's the way I would put it, I think, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
You bet, thank you. Thanks for listening.
I have a question, Sig, none of
Let-
him,
let,
but,
Travis is first.
Oh,
and then
sorry.
Come back to you, Deb.
thank you.
I was just going to make it a point. You're right. When it comes to ordinances and people trespassing, you have the right and responsibility to take care of your property. Just because someone else comes in and, the property owner who has a business on it and is doing things and allowing things to happen, they have a responsibility, but you also have that responsibility to report it for your own property. Because if someone's trespassing on my property, I would also do what I needed to do to take care of my own piece of property.
Yeah, you bet, I try to do that, that's what we are. And like I say, we love it to be able to let the neighbors walk down through, but like I say, fencing things off, it's the only way to go. And then prosecution, catching people and prosecuting, which we will do. And then pointing out, what is our ramification when we do have incidents just like this? We are to call the sheriff. Let's say that we do have problems with this rental. We call the sheriff and you at the same time? That's what you would like us to start doing?
Well, and sheriff's gonna be open, you have 911 access 24 hours a day.
Right,
Planning staff isn't there 24 hours a day.
No, right, right.
But I would suggest that, they are copied on the email following any incident report.
We
Oh,
need
you
to know.
bet, you bet.
We need to know.
That's what I'm saying. I certainly not gonna call you when we have trouble, I'm gonna call the sheriff. But I'll guarantee you, the next week, I will be talking to you people to show you what we've come up with. You know what I mean? I'll relay it, you darn right.
And PJ, question for you, we had some discussion on this as far as, has there been some discussion as far as trying to implement, or, if there is a sheriff's complaint, that you get some record of that, or?
During reviews, that'd be part of the review process. The sheriff, fire administrator already is, possibly
Are they
city of
keeping
Rapid
track
City.
now?
We haven't had an instance to even implement it yet.
Okay. Deb, you had,
You'd be surprised how many complaints come in.
Mr. Chair, number 4, the removal permit be obtained prior to removal of the existing shed, or the applicant obtains the building permit, so they can get a building permit.
If they want to keep it on the property, but I believe the indication is they don't want
that's
to.
why I was saying they could resolve
Okay.
the issue today by
Okay.
getting a building permit.
Okay, so they can tell us, maybe today they're getting a building permit, or we give them a time to remove it.
Right,
With the removal permit. So they have to get a permit either way.
right.
Okay.
Can I ask something? The way I understand with building permits, that once you're issued a building permit, that's good for a year or 2 years. So how can you accelerate that? How can you accelerate the time?
Well, the building
timeline?
permit would meet, then they would be meeting conditions immediately. The removal permit is, what we're talking about is,
Oh, not a building permit, a removal permit.
the building, when we're talking about giving them a time frame, is basically, the building permit would get them in compliance immediately. My understanding, correct?
Yeah, the structure's already there, so it's going to be a lot faster than one that's not.
Right.
Yep.
So I have a question again then. So do you give people that you say don't follow through removal permits when you came in and you said it, years later they didn't remove it? Did they have to have removal permits?
Case by case. I mean, it depends on what the violation of the conditions are. It's not always a building permit.
Well, then it's hard for people to follow then. Either you have a removal permit or you not have one. So how do we know as a committee, then
Well,
you can't tell people that they can't get their permit because you can't do what? Because you don't have your shed by the time you get here?
Well, for example, I think we had some instances where a shed was violating the setbacks.
Right.
And so you don't have to get a removal permit to remove part of the deck to get in compliance. They just had to remove part of the deck to get in compliance or get a variance from the county board.
So if it's a building, you have to have a removal permit. Why, when?
Not
Tell me
always.
the rules
Yeah.
on a removal permit.
Removal permits are basically, it's more of a, to keep the paperwork straight. If there was if there was an instrument to put a structure there, we're gonna use an instrument to take the structure off. It also takes it all out of the records for Department of Equalization. So a citizen could go and remove a 30 by 30 shed or pole barn on their property, and DOE might not be out to the property for 5 years. They're being taxed for 5 years on something that's not even there. A removal permit automatically goes by the end of the month, goes over to DOE, and then they'll investigate it and take it off the tax roll. So that's pretty much the process of why the reason why building
So basically,
removals
you
exist.
confused me, but you made different rules for different things, and then it's,
No,
I guess, maybe I'm just not understanding on the fly today
Okay.
about what we're saying. I apologize, but,
Problem.
okay.
Barbara, you're-
I'll ask you.
Yeah, I have a question too, and it concerns the easement. I assume that easement agreement was made prior to any vacation home rental ordinance. And so I'm wondering if that term rental refers to the short-term rental that now applies with vacation home rental. That would be something that probably the neighbors would need to look into with the person who
Sure
has the
should.
easement.
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Because it's a whole different ballgame with short-term rentals, many of which are investment properties.
That's
Now.
my point.
Yes.
Well, we've had long-term rentals are bad actors too. I mean, it's, that can be too, but that's probably a legal question that somebody would have to
Right.
challenge. But I mean, like, to me, a rental is a rental until, unless it's very specific for, long-term rentals only or something
It's all
like
for
that.
the same reason, and they're more regulated through the state than if you have a rental in Rapid City, you have no recourse from the state. I mean, you do have some recourse, but basically, they have to get a permit from the state, which I have rental properties, I don't. But you could turn me into the city for code enforcement and different stuff like this. So I'm trying to distinguish and still am from vacation home rental. And we are the only county in South Dakota that have this. So I still have questions about that. What's the difference between me renting my house or vacation home renting, except for the days? Is it because everything that I've heard from vacation home rentals, I'll be up straight. I've heard, I have the neighbor the same way, except it's permanently and it's all the time. It's all of yours, part-time stuff, I have all the time. They don't pick up, their dog stuff. They start fires in the back. They sell drugs. We have the SWAT there. I mean, so I'm trying to distinguish what the difference is, except that okay, that's a rental, so they're making money off it. They're not doing anything different, except now I might have to just try buying it and doing vacation home rental to see if 12 days and then they're out and 6 days they're out is better than permanently having that there.
I would
Does
like
that
to
make sense?
discuss that, but I do it at the appropriate time after all the cases are heard.
But I'm just saying what he's
Yes.
saying, Ms. Barb, for the record, to say, nobody's proved that to me yet, that vacation rental's any
I
different.
got arguments for you.
Okay, now, I appreciate that.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, agent or applicant wishing to offer comments?
Hello, I'm Nicholas Dupont, I'm the applicant. And I just want to point out that, we're not trying to break any rules. We're in fact trying to just follow every rule that the county puts out there. And so So we're not trying to disturb the neighborhood by any means, and this is just a house that my family uses, once or twice a weekend maybe, and then we just want to rent it out another, a little bit more. So that's all we're trying to do. And as far as the shed goes, we're just gonna go dismantle that shed. And I guess she put in the report that we would have some time to do it, otherwise I would have just went up there and dismantled it. So other than that.
Mr. Chair, I have some questions.
Sure. Rich.
How long do you need to get that dismantled? So your intent is to remove it and not have a building permit and keep it on the property?
Correct.
How long do you need to get that done?
I could, whatever time frame you give me. I mean, if you gave me 10 days, I would do it in 10 days. If you gave me 24 hours, I would go up there after this. And so
okay.
The shed is, to me, the shed is almost irrelevant. I just don't even, I've never even walked down to it. So it's down at the bottom of the lot, and I don't even want the shed.
The second point is I see in your guys' DuPont family cabin rules that you specifically, you don't allow any open fires, fire pits, fireworks, charcoal burning grills, or any other devices. They're not allowed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Well, I think the questions I was going to ask have been answered, that you or your family personally use it. It's not, you're not just a real estate agent off to the side and don't actually use it personally. Is that correct?
Correct. We're going to use it as our family, and to help supplement paying for it, we just wanted to rent it out. And so we wanted to take every step possible by the rules of the county to do this, so.
Okay.
So, Mr. DuPont, do you own any of the other rental properties, vacation home rentals that they're speaking of?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioners, hello, I'm Marshall McKaylee. I'm with Edelweiss Mountain Lodging. I'll be managing DuPont if it does get passed as a CUP. The property that had been spoken about with the fires, that is actually my property. Every year it seems like we have problems that we have to solve with one of our properties. We manage 14 of them. That one, there won't be anything on record because there were sheriffs out there. It does have a permit. It was legal. It was under the rules and regulations of how high and everything else. We try to do the best we can to make sure everything is taken care of prior to any incidents. That is our job. That is why we are there. We want everybody to come out and enjoy their time there as well. And we want to respect the neighbors as well. And that being said, if they have any questions for me afterwards, I'll be out there that you can speak to me personally, and we can resolve any issues that you have now or in the future, honestly. But if there's any questions that you have of me, I just want to let you know that I'm here.
What's, I guess, your policy on four-wheelers? I mean, like I said, I pointed out, I don't think it's always just rentals. I mean, four-wheelers and side-by-sides are becoming hugely popular.
It is, and it's unfortunate because there are very limited rules and regulations as far as what's to be done. We don't lease or loan any ATVs or UTVs. We do have a guided tour that we take out groups on designated trails so they know where to go and they don't have to worry about the maps and being lost and things like that. I've had the same situation. It's sad. They've closed down many trails because of it. It's not just tourists. It is locals that go out there and just want to do what they want to do. There are tourists as well that do that, but that's because they don't have the information provided to do it correctly.
In the Edelweiss area, do you make an attempt to inform people that, like, the valley is private property and not an open?
We do, yes. We have one property over in that area specifically that does go through. We talk to the anybody that has ATVs that are leasing that property, and we give them maps of designated trails to go to. And so, I mean, we do the best we can to try to and give them the information provided to do the right thing. And it really comes down to the individual, whether or not they're going to do that or not. I know in the past, I've taken pictures of people's license plates and stopped them personally as well on different trails.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I'm going to go back to the fire pit and stuff. You said you had a permit for that even during the burn
Correct,
ban?
at both properties, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I am familiar that you can get permits to burn during burn bans because I have a farm and I've burned during those times, as long as you meet certain criteria to do so.
That is correct as well. Yeah, in the summer as well, we have the permits for that, to have fire pits at 2 locations of the properties that we manage. The rest are not allowed to have fire pits. And so we try to keep those contained as well.
Are they inspected, just to
They
make
are,
sure?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's always the application and everything that's signed from the fire department next to the fire pit itself. And then there's a website online that we go to. Every one of the homeowners that stay in that property, they do call us, and we look online to see during the summertime, depending on the weather, because there are sometimes if there's wind or heat index, something like that, that they are not allowed to have fire.
Correct. And I only bring that up just because I'm familiar with a property that I work at during the summer down in Custer, and even during the burn bans, as long as we had our fire pit met certain criteria, we were able to do so until the winds. But even the firemen come out, they look at it and they say, yep, you're good to go. So it's always important for the public to know that you can do that even in a burn ban, as long as you have the permits to do so and the fire department comes out and sees it.
Sure.
Other questions? Lori, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
can I ask the question?
Sure.
Yeah, you as a manager for this property and the other properties that you manage, I heard one of the other people that spoke saying that they tried to contact Edelweiss Lodging and there was no one available. And I just wondered if you could describe, what's available for someone if they have an issue with one of your properties?
Sure, absolutely. The office right next to Black Forest Bed and Breakfast there, my folks actually live in that office, so that is where they stay all the time. And so we are pretty easily able to be contacted in the summertime. We're there 7 days a week. And they're there every day throughout the day and nighttime. So there's somebody there usually 24 hours a day. I've gotten phone calls at 11 o'clock at night because of incidents up on Edelweiss Mountain that we answer and go up there and take care of before there are any further problems that arise. So it is very easy to contact us, especially in the summertime, because we're running a business and operation, and it is our home as well.
And could you clarify how many properties on Edelweiss Mountain that you manage?
Up on Edelweiss Mountain itself, there are 12 properties that we manage.
And that's probably out of a total of how many?
Out of homes up there? Is that your question, or?
Yeah, I mean, is it like 10%, 20%, 2%?
Us personally, we probably manage out of homes up on Edelweiss Mountain, I would say 25% of the homes that are up there are 15. But there are other rentals up there as well that we do not manage ourselves.
Okay, I'm just trying to get an idea of, what part of this market you're involved in. Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions?
Yes, sir. So, sir, you're understanding what we're saying. If there's legitimate reasonings to shut down your vacation home rental, which so far I've seen counteraction and back and forth, that your documentation is going against other people's documentation. So if you're running a company, hopefully you have that documentation, because if that comes through, you will no longer have that as a vacation home rental.
Absolutely, I understand.
And that's a lot of properties to have.
Correct,
being shut down from.
And that's why we try to do things the best we can, the right way, because it isn't just a property. It is my livelihood, our livelihood, and what we do for a living. And so we do the best that we can. Yes, I understand that.
Okay, just so you're having your documentation, so to make sure that the neighbors are taken care of, and then, and if it's a repeated pattern, maybe there needs to be some changes yourselves as property owners. That's what I do in order to make, 'cause
Absolutely.
we try to make our neighbors as well, is there any problems, and there anything we could do better? That communication is huge.
And that's probably something where I've fallen short, is going up personally to each neighbor in that surrounding area. I've been to some of the road district meetings and let them know. So I try to go in and inform them that this is who we are, this is what we do, here's our contact information, and that sort of thing. So, but yes, I understand.
The communication is huge.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Are we going to change the removal to like 10 days or something?
Looks like Joyce is.
Okay. I thought you were ready for like changes.
I thought so too.
Joyce Shagru, may I speak a second time? From listening to Mr. McCauley, he said this has, as I understand him, that this was a vacation home rental and met all of the rules. Is this a grandfathered vacation home rental that we don't know about? Was it on the
Not
list
sure I
of
heard that,
VHRs
I guess.
before?
Yeah, Marshall, if you could address that.
No, we never rented this specific
Okay.
property. I'm sorry. This was, as a whole, I was trying to
Okay.
describe what we do.
Okay,
But
because then I
this
wanted to make a
property
point if it was.
has not been associated with
Okay,
Edelweiss
okay.
prior to this.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Leach, you indicate you want to speak again?
Thank you. I just want to make sure I've got this clear in my mind now. As this Mr. Lester pointed out to us, we're very familiar with the fire rules. And if you have a fire pit and they must be contained, you must have everything there to take care of this, put a fire out immediately. Bonfires are not fire pits. Bonfires are above ground without containers. This is what we experienced, was a bonfire. Now, this gentleman, I did talk to him years ago, very helpful. I really honestly believe this man in his mind, because he was the first one I confronted about the four-wheelers. And I think he might have just taken a very, very good guy and was helpful. I did, however, have to stop down at their other facility, the one that he's talking about. I don't know who it was I was talking to, but I did put him on notice that I was gonna get a lawyer to try and stop this from happening. And so, but I do believe this man does try hard. My point being here is, so if they are putting this up and they're responsible that their people don't have fires or using briquettes, so when we do have an incident that we have to report somebody, are we also going to reporting these people as well? Because they're supposed to make sure that this isn't happening. You know what I mean?
Well,
are they culpable in any fashion as well?
I think that in a review, it certainly weigh into the decision, but I mean, ultimately, it's the property owner, that's the applicant, that's, he may be acting as the agent, but I mean, I believe we would look at it as a whole and what action's being
I
taken.
just want to know who I need to report these things to, because I'm going to start, I got to play fair, and I believe you're right, so I just want to be able to, make notice where notice needs to be made right off the bat.
And I would hope you would talk to the applicants first, and if they decide that that's not a big deal, then take steps, because most people are willing to work with you at this point. And if you find, like I said, that this becomes an issue, that's when the planning department and we come in. I don't think if they have one incident in a year that's worthy of, unless it's going to burn, one incident to burn you down.
It only takes one incident to
Well,
start a
you're
fire
right.
to get
If it's
online,
like a
yeah.
bonfire.
I guess I
Right.
don't know what to say, because I'm trying. I guess I'm saying that to them now. I want to be a good neighbor to you, but boy, you better police it, because we've had it up to our necks with it.
Right.
And and like I say, we go up there for solitude. We pay our taxes, and we have for years up there to place to get away from that stuff. So I just want to be sure, because I'm going to follow protocol the way it's going to be done, but I'm going to be there, and I'm going to do it right. So that's why I'm asking. Do I just call the sheriff and report both of them? Or do
I said I would encourage you to document. I mean,
Oh,
otherwise,
you
we
don't have to encourage me to do that. I've
We
got
don't
that
have
down, yeah.
recourse to revoke somebody without documentation and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And at the same time, I know even again, going through the vacation home rental rules changes and all that, everyone always pulls the bad examples. But there's a lot of people that come out there for solitude too, the same.
Oh,
as
I
you do,
agree
too.
100%. You bet. No,
You
I
have
agree.
good renters, and you'll always have a bad apple every now
But
and then.
we are not renters. We go up, we don't make money out of it. people are making money putting up with it, we don't. You know what I mean? It's just, but I thank you very much. You've given me very good indication on what to do, and that's where we'll follow it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, I guess the staff's recommendation is for approval with 17 conditions. We have talked about the shed on removal.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. Sure. I was thinking we talked about two possibles, the shed removal and then the revoke the CUP if there's construction. Is it the two that we talked about?
If the lot is split.
Yeah, or if the lot split, that's what I was.
If the lot is split, because then it wouldn't meet the conditions any longer. Those are the two items that we possibly talked about adding. You know, I was throwing out short dates, but quite honestly, I'm not opposed as long as we have a deadline in there and it checks. I mean, maybe 30 days or 45 days this time of year is more realistic, you know.
I think even 10 days is realistic for a shed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, you said you were good with, was 10 days enough to take down the shed? Just in case the blizzard or anything comes through and, okay. Thank you, sir.
Anyway, those were, I think, the two key items we talked about as possibly changing as far as conditions different than what the staff had recommended conditions. Does anyone want to venture a motion, offer a motion?
So, hi, Chutima speaking. Staff recommends approval of conditional use permit CU 1644 with 18 conditions. So condition number 4 will add the 10 days, the timeline to the removal permit. And the other condition will be add as that this conditional use permit automatically ended if lot 1 and 2 of lots 7 and 8 are sold to separate owners, thus losing the developmental lot status.
You're adding that as
Another condition, so it will be 18.
19 then?
18.
They just added the
4
10
is
days
coming
on.
on,
Oh.
she added 10 days to 4 6.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I would make that motion that we approve, where are we at? I gotta find out which number we're on. We approve conditional use 16-44 with the 18 conditions. I believe that's modifying condition 4 with adding the 10 days and then adding the 18th condition.
Yep.
About the sale of the property with the split, right?
Yes, it will state that this conditional use permit will be automatically ended if this
I
two
think-
lot is.
I think everyone understands that, so I don't know.
Okay.
I would make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Not, roll call, Jerry?
Lori,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Sig,
Aye.
Travis,
Aye.
Barbara.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Item 13. Thank you.
Hi, Cassie Bolstead, Assistant Planning Director. Item 13 is a layout plat request to reconfigure lot lines to create lots 15, 16, and 17 of Granite Point subdivision. The applicant here is Granite Point LLC or Gene Quinn. The surveyor is Renner and Associates. As this property exists today, it exists as 4 lots. All 4 are zoned a planned unit development, and all 4 are currently vacant. Lot A is currently 0.19 acres. Lot B is 0.2 acres. Lot A of Lot 7 is 0.23 acres, and Lot B of Lot 7 is 0.24 acres. So basically what they are wanting to do is they are wanting to reconfigure the lot lines to make these 4 lots into 3 larger lots. So there would be lot 15, which would be 0.248 acres, lot 16, which would be 0.304 acres, and lot 17, which would also be 0.304 acres. Access to all of these properties is off of Granite Point Court, which is located within the Granite Point Road District. And all 3 of these properties would be served by a private well and Keystone City Sewer. This was routed through the interdepartmental review process. Nothing of significance came back. So Ultimately, on this layout plat, they are going to be vacating the existing 8-foot wide minor drainage and utility easements that exist on the current lots, and they are rededicating those on the interior of the new lots if this plat is approved. I did perform a site visit to this property. All of these properties, like I said, are currently vacant, and access to them is off of Granite Point Court, which Granite Point Court is within a 50-foot wide platted right-of-way, and it's an approximately 30-foot wide paved driving surface with a turnaround at the end. And if this layout plat is approved, the applicant can then move forward with a minor plat, which also must be approved by this body and the Board of Commissioners before this plat can be filed with the Register of Deeds. So for the purposes of a layout plat, staff finds no issues with the applicant's request, as a layout plat is an informal preliminary review of the proposed subdivision for general scope and conditions. So staff is ultimately recommending approval of layout plat 1633 with 8 conditions.
Questions for Cassie?
Mr. Chair, I have a few
Rich.
questions. How far away from the city of Keystone is this?
It's a little ways away from the city of Keystone, but actually right here, this is the Keystone City Sewer Lift Station.
Okay. My next question
It's
is,
about, I would say it's probably, maybe 5 miles from I mean, it's not 20 miles or anything like that from Keystone.
so
but
it's significantly away from the city, other city utilities.
Yeah, except for their lift station.
Okay, and that's where I'm going is typically, cities won't allow you to hook up to one utility without both utilities, but in this instance, the city doesn't have water out at their lift station. The only
Not
reason
to-
they're attaching to city sewer is their relative location to the existing facilities?
Yep, and it's also a condition of that PUD that all of these lots have to be connected to city sewer.
I see that the city didn't actually comment back when you guys requested comments, so my concern is are they good with everything the way that it is? Or did they actually just write back and say, we don't have any comments?
No, I didn't get any comments back from them. They didn't respond to our request for comment.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Other questions for Cassie? Applicant Jean, I see you're here. You have any comments to offer? Any questions for the planning commission?
I don't. It's simply.
If you could come up to the podium, maybe you're gonna speak, so, thank you.
My name is Gene Quinn, I'm the applicant. We're simply taking 4 lots. The people on the one end first wanted 20 more feet. So talked to the people on the other side that had the other lot, yeah, they would buy 20 more feet, so we're making 3 out of 4. You just can't second guess people.
Questions for Jean?
What's that?
I just seeing if anyone had questions for you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve layout plat PL 16-33 with no conditions, right?
8.
8 conditions.
Second.
With 8 conditions, right.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Jerry?
Lori,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Sig,
Aye.
Travis, Barbara.
Aye.
The layout plat is approved.
Thank you.
Item 14.
Item 14 is conditional use permit review 1520 to review, oh, there it is. To review construction equipment sales yard on the subject property in general commercial district. The applicant is Mitch Morris, and he is in the audience today. The subject property is 27.48 acres. This has been before you several times, so I'll just kind of cut to the highlights of the last couple weeks. Mr. Morris was aware of the conditions that were applied to him when this was approved over a year ago. Has been made aware of the previous conditions as they had adjusted, and has also been made aware of the most recent conditions. Mr. Morris has worked with staff, the ordinance officer, to correct other violations that exist on the property and violations that existed on a property just north. By way of the conditions that were approved, staff believes that this conditional use permit should end unless, and I haven't spoken to the applicant today, last time staff was out there, the privacy fence has not been erected up on the property at this time. I don't know if it has been over the weekend. During conversations with the applicant on the phone, he had indicated that he has some ideas of what type of fence that he would like to put up on the property, not necessarily to surround the property as the condition states, but just on one side of the property to block it from view of the highway. Staff did indicate to the applicant that he should bring those ideas and a timeline with him today, as it is possible for the Planning Commission to continue the review or continue or extend this conditional use permit if you so choose. But as of this time, per the conditions that were recommended, staff recommends to end conditional use permit 1520. However, if the Planning Commission decides to continue the review to a future Planning Commission meeting in or before June 17th, or extend it after June of 2017, staff recommends that you include 16 conditions, or 16 conditions. It was written that way because if you do choose to continue it for a few months, that these conditions still apply, or if you choose to extend it permanently and then possibly do, the next review wouldn't be for another 6 months or longer if you so desire. It would be up to you, but we'd like the 16 conditions to apply. And if you do notice, however, there is also a condition in there from staff that, condition number 2, it's a little bit different than we have usually done. But for the history of this conditional use permit, we find it appropriate.
So, Mr. Chair, just one question. So out of the 15 conditions, he didn't meet any of them, or there's 2 on here, or there's 6 on here?
As of right now, as of June 9, 2017, on page 8 of 10 of the staff report, there were 4 conditions that were not met. Condition number 3 talks about noise levels. We never received any complaints about the property as far as noise levels. It was about the 6-foot-tall privacy fence, which upon initial conversations with the applicant, he stated that he never saw that before and forgot it was there. But he did sign a statement of understanding, which is in your packets, where he had stated that he had read and understood all the conditions. Item 6, the porta potties, 1 for every 50 employees provided on site. When staff was down on the property before, we've seen at least 2 different employees driving different trucks for Mr. Morris. I don't know at this time how many employees he has on the property. Condition number 14, the applicant still hasn't paid the continuation fee as far as I know this morning. I don't know, he was up there at the office this morning that I know of, but I don't believe that he's paid the $100 continuation fee because the latest continuation was the direct result of an inaction done by the applicant per our ordinance. And then also the statements of understanding, which the applicant hasn't signed for the last 2 statements of understanding.
Mr. Morris, if you could just be seated until, I will give you an opportunity, but I mean, let's finish with questions with PJ.
You can sit up front,
Yeah, you can
Mitch.
sit up front, so be ready to hop up there in just a second, but.
Okay.
Deb, do you have other questions?
Well, some of these, it's like the privacy fence, I wouldn't have constructed all around. I think we had this discussion all around my property. I don't think too many people make a whole privacy fence. Even the city makes you, if you have junk so everybody else can't see it, you kind of, depending on where he's putting it. Is it so you can see it? Because he owns all the land to the east of that. Like his is here, and then anything east is, he's the only one seeing it. So it seems like you would privacy it from the road. And what kind you build is so you can't see it. You don't have what privacy means. So, I mean, you don't want a tarp flopped over a fence and call that privacy unless, I guess, you can hook it,
But
who
there-
knows? Anyway.
There are
number
lots
6,
zoned residential to the
the
east.
porta potty seems like an easy solution for him. Maybe he has a different reason. 14 is a continuation fee that can be applied before we give him his permit. And number 15, statement of understanding, he needs to know, Mitch needs to know before we agree with that. So we're talking a privacy fence and an on-site wastewater that we're gonna shut down him. And then the statement of understanding and the continuation fee should be applied and paid for before this is done. So, I'm just gonna defend this, because sometimes we always take for granted that people know and can do what we think they can do because we can do it. on some of it. And we have done stuff for Mitch above and beyond. I hear that all the time. But that's our job. It's our job. So if we have to keep working with a guy to get it right, and maybe you want to continue this or do whatever, then let's work with him until we get it right. Because it's what we do. And maybe I'm just being too lenient, but I don't know, some of these things are just pretty, not that hard.
Mr. Chair, just out of curiosity, item number 6, the porta potties, does he not have public bathrooms in a building? I mean, I see there's structures there. Is there
There's a
not
building down there, we never indicated he had a working facility in there.
Yeah, go ahead.
There is no services there, but there are 2 porta potties that have been there for 3 years.
Well, we probably should wait till he's up to the mic so we get it on record.
I just wanted to clarify, because why would you have a requirement to have porta potties if he's got indoor plumbing there? I would just, from my side of things, I wanted to clarify that.
Well, I have a further question now of where the porta potties are, so that would be a good one to know.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And I had another question, and as I was reading through this, and since we've seen it a couple of times, one of the things that kind of did pop out to me, and so I'm going to ask PJ first, and of course it'll probably carry over to Mitch coming up here and talking to us, but I noticed originally it was zoned light industrial, and he originally had it rezoned to general commercial, which pretty much then flagged all this stuff that had to be done. Is that correct? Am I understanding?
No, there were concerns about the property even when it was zoned light industrial. However, the current use was better, more appropriate under light industrial, which he still has an option to zone back to. When he chose to rezone a good portion of the property that abuts the highway there, we informed him that going to general commercial is going to make this a concern, and we'll have to work with you to figure out a conditional use permit. So the planning commission staff worked with the applicant for months to figure out how we could do this, and the conditional use permit 1520 was the solution.
So he knew that once he rezoned it, he was going to then throw himself out of compliance and have to do a lot of other different things to come into compliance.
Yes, and he signed a statement of understanding to state that, yes.
Chair, if I could answer some of that, I was on the city and we decided for Mitch, which he probably followed, there's a AC/DC converter right there. And we said that it'd be appropriate because of that AC/DC converter to do it light industrial. So I'm believing that he did that because of the city, because if you saw the zoning map from the city, that's what they put around it. I was on that committee when that AC/DC converter had the noise and the vibration that was going on. And then when he came through, I thought what the deal was, he could sell it. That's why he switched, when I talked to Mitch, into commercial, because he actually could sell it for commercial for more money.
And just
But either way, just for a sec, PJ, either way, that was a buffer to that. Why he switched it to commercial and didn't leave it industrial, the only reason that I knew is because he could probably sell it as commercial, not light industrial.
Yep, the property that contains a subject property, a large portion of that was zoned general commercial. I believe the property you're talking about as far as that buffer, this is the tie that is directly across from that.
But that also is on a major arterial, so most of the time you'll put commercial on major arterial.
Correct. We're not saying it wasn't appropriate. We actually agreed with them and recommended approval of it.
Right.
But
did it change his standards of what his conditions went from light industrial to commercial?
General commercial, correct.
What were the conditions that it changed then, except?
That it no longer is a permitted use? That the use that he had proposed was not allowed in general commercial. So we made it a contractor storage yard and, hold on here. Let me find it for you here.
So as a contractor storage yard, they should have
Equipment
some type
sales,
of privacy
equipment
fence.
sales. Yep.
Yeah, but I've never seen them, even in industrial or commercial, that they've fenced everything around unless it's close enough to everybody's property. They've always made a barrier so you couldn't see it from the road. And remember, I had to discuss that with you, PJ.
Oh, it's okay. The conditional use permits are unique to the properties, so.
Yes.
I was gonna say, aren't the junkyards along Diaseeger area, aren't those fenced all the way around?
No.
I thought they were.
And there's a couple of them that
I
if you
think they may
go.
be fenced,
Actually,
but
I know many
yeah.
of junkyards that are not fenced all the way around.
Well, that may be beside the point anyway on this one.
We have a lot in the county that are junk yards that don't have privacy fence. Why, Mitch?
Because he has a conditional use permit. They probably don't.
So do they have that in there? Did we have him do a privacy fence and we didn't make anybody else do it?
If they come up with a conditional use permit, we would.
Or we could take it off?
You could take it off if you'd like, yeah.
The-
Just make sure you are aware of the state statutes as well.
Well,
We're trying
that's-
to help him stay out of that.
Kind of related, I guess, one of the conditions that's proposed is 13, it says inoperable vehicles and basically not intended for immediate sale. I know that was a concern from the planning commission before. Are you satisfied that, you don't list it as one of the four, so I assume you're satisfied with that condition has
Yeah,
been
that
met.
was one of the major violations that the ordinance officer had to deal with, that vehicles that were supposed to be removed before still hadn't been removed when the review came up. I mean, almost like the shed we were talking about before. They weren't moved until he was pressed to move them. As of now, though, according to what I understand from Michael King, he is in compliance with that. He has removed all the vehicles that were in violation. Additional
I
vehicles
assume
were
that by
added.
not being listed as one of the four, but
Yep.
since that was a previous
Yep,
concern.
he was working on that one.
And this is a pretty big area. It's not like he's got a quarter acre that we're talking about either. He's got some major things going on there that was permitted and not permitted after he changed, so.
Mitch, I guess, Mitch, Mr. Morris, I guess if you could come to the podium, we have some questions for you, or if you want to present your options are.
I guess first off, I want to say I'm not here to argue or be obstinate or uncooperative with the staff, but PJ suggested that I review the videos of the last meetings, and I went back to look, and the ones I seen were available were December 5th. This January 9th is not available on video, at least that I could find yet as of yesterday. And after the staff reports, I don't know how they come to us. It appears that they're wrote on a Thursday, probably mailed out on a Thursday evening. I get my staff reports Monday morning. So the staff report for today I received this morning in my morning's mail. I have a post office box that goes to. I respectfully disagree with the history reporting in the current staff report for today. Went back and looked through the one for the 9th, and I disagree with different comments of it. I'm going to get into some subjects here that maybe we don't need to talk about, but because of what I noticed in the December 5th video and some conversations I've had with PJ, and then reviewing the staff report this morning very quickly on my setting in the parking lot on the way over here, I think I need to give you my dissertation of the history here.
Certainly, sure.
A year ago in December, I received the conditional use permit for this subject that we're talking about. It had the provisions in it. I read the provisions, and I feel that I was in compliance with all of those provisions. It comes up for review in the year, which was one of the provisions. A little further off the subject history, I'm a widowed person, still single, and I have one child living in state, and the other ones and my grandchildren are all out of state. I am gone an extreme amount of time, at least once a month, for anywhere from 2 days to a month at a time. I have a permanent residence in Rapid City, which is out on some of the subject property. I have a permanent business office in town that is part-time staffed at this point, has a landline. I do not have a landline at home, and I have a cell phone. My cell phone is I'm computer illiterate by choice, so to speak. But I have a pretty extensive cell phone. Yeah, my personal cell phone has 260 gigs of memory. I back up continuously with iTunes and iCloud. I save all of my voicemails. When this come up for review, I was personally in California most of October and a big part of November. On November 7th, I received my first indication of this review. And if it's appropriate, I would like to play some of my voicemails in reference to this thing based upon the history reports that I've been left several messages and I don't return calls and things like that. Sounds argumentative, but I'm not wanting to come this across as argumentative. I'm wanting to do my position of the history of this, try to straighten it out so we can accomplish the goals here.
But is that really, I mean, I think it's more pertinent, I think staff is working with you and saying we've got fairly minimal options to get you approval.
And I agree with that, and not to waste your time, I guess I could skip a lot of this and get to the points, but the point of it is, if you go through the history report on here, it says that I've been getting left messages and I had no return calls and anything like this. This is untrue. I received 2 voicemails in November 7th, and from PJ, from his personal cell phone, a 490 prefix, that said that he was going to go review this thing and I didn't need to be there. I got 10 minutes later, I got another voicemail that said, you don't have to come here, but give me a call so we can talk about this at some time. I was gone until like November 11th. And when I got back, I went through my emails and I got it from him. I returned the phone call and left him a voicemail.
Well, let me stop you.
I guess to kind of get through the chase, I guess then.
Hold on a sec. Let me go to the planning commission first. I guess, does everybody want to hear the history? I mean, if you will, I'll let him proceed, but I think we're moving towards resolving the issue fairly simply, and I think if we get to those facts, we can, I don't know that we're going to deny you because of the history, differing history. I think it's, how do we resolve where we're at right now?
There's some things that I can see in your point of view that can look not as they are because of the history that's portrayed to you. For instance, the meeting of the 9th, 2 weeks ago, throughout the month of December, I was continually trying to clear up the 2 things that I knew were violations of this permit that I'd received violation notices on. One of them, Mike, I can't remember his last name, the ordinance officer, gave me 2 violation ordinances, and the moment I got them, when I got back in the first week of December, immediately started to correct these things. One of them got switched over to Brittany because she handles the grading permits. So to handle the grading permit issue, which was a violation in this review, we made an appointment, we couldn't make an appointment. Brittany, it's Christmas holidays, New Year's holidays, she was gone a lot. And my appointments got switched all through December into the first week of January, and then I got a call in January, maybe it was the 3rd or something, that said that meeting couldn't be back, she wouldn't be back until the next week.
So we're getting into history again, and I think we're getting to the fence, okay.
In that,
I think, let's address the 4 points we have
I was told, though, when I made the call back to them, what do I do, Vian's Brittany's back? And I understood from PJ that my January 9th meeting would be continued until today. We weren't going to talk about it on January 9th. And when I came to the office a week ago, January 9th, I was up to the planning office to discuss these things and see when Brittany was going to be back and all that. And they said, well, they're down there having a meeting now. I came down here.
So Mitch, hold on just a sec. So Mitch, the bottom line is, on January 9th, you had 4 conditions not met. That's what?
Disagree.
Okay. We're not disagreeing with your stories at all. Okay. What Sig's saying is you have 4 conditions. Which ones of those have you met, and can you discuss those with us today? And that'd be number 3, number 6, number 14, and number 15, Mitch. Have you met those conditions, or why haven't you met those conditions, sir?
Okay, the 4 conditions that are aligned to me is number 2, the operation condition, not organization, subject property performed and maintained, not to create a public nuisance.
Nope, there's only 3, 6, 14, and 15 that you're not in compliance with, Mitch. 3, 6, 14, and 15.
For the 4 things you highlighted.
That was right, but today we're talking about this. This is back in December. So, good. You said you got a copy of the report this morning?
Yes, I briefly went through that. I did not.
So January 9th, PJ, did you give him 3, 6, 14, and 15 to comply with when he came in?
So 3 is the first one?
Yep.
6-foot privacy fence. That was a condition of the very first one that I signed a year ago.
Right.
I feel that was in compliance then. My oversight I guess like, and I discussed with PJ, I didn't pay attention that it noted specifically 6 foot and privacy. In our conversations, I've asked him, what's privacy meant? In the end result that I've gotten back from him now that I understand, is it can be a chain link fence, see-through chain link fence. Is that correct or not correct?
For our most recent conversations, that is not correct.
As of, it's in his staff report for the 9th meeting that that's what it would be. But never the result. The property has, if.
What are you proposing?
Okay, well, I guess let me explain.
We've heard that you have some options, and I guess we're interested in hearing how you would like to resolve
The
it.
permits for 27 acres, that is not fenced. The portion where the equipment is fenced and has been for 30 years. And it has a 6-foot chain link fence around 3 sides and an 8-foot chain link fence on the front side, except for a section of about 170 feet where the building used to be that it wasn't. In all of this operation, now there's an 8-foot fence on the entire frontage of where the equipment's all at, and a 6-foot on 3.5 sides of it, except for where I've got a temporary wire fence right now because of the construction permit where I'm doing the dirt work. And but it's not, I've got pictures for you.
Well, that's what I was asking. Do we have pictures of the fence?
Ask, can we see the pictures? Got a lot of fences, PJ. Are you in a particular area that he needs that fence?
Right around with the contractor storage yard and salvages, yeah.
So he already had this fence as light industrial, and then when it became commercial, it needs to be more privacy. Am I correct?
That's correct, because I believe I was being asked, because it was a conditional use permit and they have to put conditions on it. The property had to be cleaned up as well, and this is the cleaned up property. There is more history than Mr. Morris is indicating to you right at this point.
That's okay.
I don't know how to put it on your thing here. I'll show you some pictures of what is there, or what has been there for 35 years. This is an 8-foot chain link fence that basically goes across the front of the whole property.
Barbara, if you want to step over here.
I'll get up.
I can see the pictures up there. It's pretty much the same shot.
Yeah.
And with meeting with the ordinance violence officer, Mike, on the site, he suggested that it would probably be, keep asking the questions of what we really need to do. And he said that the section that's not fenced, fence it, and there's a section just to the south of that picture there, where the old building was, that there wasn't a fence here a week ago. Since then, that's the fence that's there now being built. It's an 8-foot tall fence. And after discussions with PJ and with Mike, they suggested that I put a visual barrier up on that fence on the front.
So we have to define
There's
privacy.
the visual barrier that's there right now. It's a screen that goes on a chain link fence. It's not complete. This is actually a picture of Saturday when the screen is going up on the fence.
So Mitch, you put what you thought was a privacy fence, and then they came out and said, we meant a privacy fence that is visually, or you put that right away?
My oversight a year ago, my fault, I'll take the responsibility for it, is that when I got the 15 conditions, or the 10 conditions originally, it's one of the conditions, 6, I think, was 6-foot privacy fence. I reread it as 6-foot fence, privacy, knowing that I've had a fence around it for 35 years.
That nobody can come in its private
And
property.
never, and not once and over the year that came up as an issue. I got 2 ordinance violations, and not till about the 7th of December was I told of this, and PJ and I had the conversation. God, I don't even remember seeing 6-foot privacy fence on there. What is a privacy fence? And in yesterday's conversation, I think it was, or Tuesday's conversation, PJ, that he's found some ordinances that it needs to be something you can't see through. As of the 9th, it was a chain link fence. Now it's something to see through. What do you want? I will propose to put up the 8-foot fence all the way across the front edge of the construction yard and put the privacy screen on that. I do not want to do around the other 3 sides.
Well, number 3 is we have to define privacy. How about number 6?
And I see that.
That's the porta potties, Mitch.
They're there. They've been there for, because of, on this same property, there's,
Can you show us on there where your porta potties are? The bigger one?
I think one of them's moved from this picture, but if you can see by the racetrack right here, there's 2 of them right over there by that,
Can you use the mouse and
pit
point to 'em?
shack.
Can you use the mouse and point to them?
I'm not sure how to do that, I guess, but.
That little arrow thing, Mitch. There you go.
There's 2 right there. One of them, I believe, is moved over to somewhere over here right now.
And they're functioning?
Yes,
Okay.
functioning porta potties.
Okay.
They've been there for, well, off and on for 15 years.
Okay, PJ?
You wanted to go to the next one?
So so he has porta potties, he's in compliance or not?
We'd have to visually verify, and we checked with the ordinance officer during the meeting, and he said he's never seen them as well.
Okay.
Again, but we've never gone out onto the track, because we would expect the porta potties would be in a more convenient location, as the applicant has
Well,
just
that-
stated
that-
he has moved them.
I guess
So,
that's a comment I
think
would
one of
have.
them
I
is
mean,
moved.
I wouldn't have thought staff would have looked outside the area we're talking about that has the sale material. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, even if you're having someone that needs to use the restroom when they're coming to buy equipment or something like that, you wouldn't expect to have them go on the other side of
That's
the
also-
privacy fence.
That's also a fenced area, but,
Okay.
and do another, and I've got a gate that,
But you're even handling that differently. You're saying, you know, you just want to consider fencing of the sale area. And so you're excluding the racetrack at that point, but now when it's convenient for the porta potty. So I mean, if you've moved one on there, I think that's great.
yes, there's,
if you have,
I
but
believe the one of the 2 is moved up there,
Recently?
probably a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And can you see your property visually see the property from the road? I mean, can you see there's anybody drove by there, lots of junk, you can see that property from the road?
You can see the property from the road, and if I put up a 15-foot high fence, it's not gonna stop the visual side.
That's my point.
And I've driven that road many times, and I'm not gonna say I have or have not noticed this property on the side, because I don't think I have. I drive that road to Hot Springs all the
Oh,
time, so
junky.
it's not like it's something that's jumped out at me to say, ooh, this is an eyesore. I don't know.
I guess that's my point, because if you drive all that area, I didn't see many privacy fences or anything for that whole junky. A lot of it's industrial over there.
On that subject, if I can intervene there a minute, PJ in our conversations has mentioned that he's trying to keep me out of the junkyard status with the DOT. I've contacted the DOT, and all of the conversations I've had at this point, they have no issue with it. There's a new person now, his name is Kyle now, that handles everything to do with junkyards. He's new enough on it, as of our conversations last week. He didn't know, he was gonna check around if they had any opinion of if something that they would want differently done or if not done or what they agree with. But in all, I've had conversations with a couple of his superiors in other divisions of the DOT and with him, and they don't have any specific concerns.
The AC/DC converter that is very industrial and could cause issues has the same fence he does. It doesn't have a privacy fence, it has the same thing, and you can see that from the road. So I'm trying to figure out how big a fence does he need? And no matter what, you can still see it from the road. So we're gonna make him put up an 8-foot that's not gonna do anything, cost him more money, slat it, and do what for us?
Actually, he's already got an 8 fence, if I understand.
Well, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
slat it
But now
out.
make him slat it. I agree, I don't.
Well, and personally, I think it's sad that all the gateways in the Rapid have trash that you can see, and, you know, it's not the best picture I'd like to present of Rapid City, but I think that's neither here nor there on making a decision.
To me, it is, because what you did for 20 other properties on the same road, and then all of a sudden he comes up, and and the second point again was, you're not gonna privatize it anyway, because he said, you can put a 15-foot fence there and still see my junk.
To
So,
answer this question, this is not a permanent thing. This is back into the history again, it's a construction yard that I've personally owned for 40-plus years. And it's something that is kind of a sore spot to me because it's a big part of my life burnt up in smoke there. But it's old equipment that most everything there runs. But it's old and obsolete or no longer in use or productive equipment or new enough to, a lot of people don't use it. Still has value. The intent of this deal, back into the history, is this was zoned light industrial because of the construction yard. It was because of my land planning it was moving the construction yard out, rezoning to general commercial, and under the general commercial rezone, this use is something that's listed as a conditional use option. So we went to conditional use permit, and this is temporary. Hopefully, there's 50% of the stuff has been removed in the last 2 years that was there. And hopefully in a year, I'll have it all gone.
so Mitch, does the DOT have a problem with, or any other state agency has came up and said, you need to screen this, you need to do this because
None.
it's
Zero.
causing?
No.
You're positive?
Positive. Well, to clarify that again, the new person, Kyle, I have his last name in my notes at the office. He is checking it to see if there's anything new that he was unaware of, and he's going to ask questions because he said he's new enough at the job, he's only been there a few months, that he couldn't give me a written, I wanted him to give me how that conversation come up, to ask for a written answer for this meeting.
Well, I've seen violation, but it was in the right of way. But
Well,
that's not.
To clarify that, in the review process of this, the staff of the planning department called the DOT and advised them that I was doing work in the right-of-way. That was also one of my voicemails that came through in November. I contacted the DOT. They are aware that the right-of-way property line is outside of where my fence line is. So any of the work that I've done has all been on my own property, not in the right-of-way. But consequently, he suggested, so that all government entities were satisfied that there was, being that it's on a line, there'll be no question of it, I filled out a right-of-way permit. That's been applied.
Okay.
It wasn't a violation,
Okay.
to clarify.
How about 14?
PJ, could you clarify, I mean, as far as your knowledge of status with DOT, and I mean, I do appreciate that you added that from the federal highway, and this is on the federal highway system. But I mean, as far as like even, some of this is semantics to me, because, we're saying we're selling this equipment, others may term it a junkyard, but looking at the way the junk is described in that federal highway thing, I'm not sure that if it's construction equipment that's operable, it fits in that either. So, I mean.
Well, there's more than just construction equipment out there. When we were out on the property for the initial review and we saw, which one did you want me to address? All the contacts with DOT?
No, I mean, just I guess, in regards to what you included in the packet as far as junkyard status with the DOT.
Yep, because of other properties and different subdivisions in the county, we stumbled across those laws, basically. That was after the requirement for the fence was put into the conditional use permit. And so in my message to Mr. Morris, while we were talking about it is another thing that somebody could complain about. And in conversations with our contacts with DOT, they don't have anything to do with junkyards, but they said, yep, if it's state law, somebody could enforce it.
Okay.
Good.
My understanding is this Kyle is the guy that handles he's handling the junkyard division now, or the junkyard requirements of the DOT.
So you have a 14 on page.
I'm not sure I understand
Hold on.
14 very well.
Hold on a sec. You have November 23rd, conditional use 15 through 20. On page 1 of 2, you have 14 is basically statement of understanding, conditional use in the Pennington and noxious weed. And then this one doesn't read the same thing. Am I missing something,
Where is
PJ?
15 through 20?
Yes, I see what you're saying.
That's
Yeah,
conditional
so
use
I
permit.
can see where,
That's my confusion. There's two different sets of rules here.
yeah, where you're trying to figure out, even myself, just from reading all your stuff, I'm confused.
Okay, so let's see if I can clarify this. So from the 15 conditions that were approved on January 9, 2017, that's on page 8 of 10, right? Those 15 conditions are listed on page 6 and 7.
Okay, so
So
what,
those would have been the conditions that were pulled over.
so 2 of 2 is what? What are those conditions?
2 of 2, I'm sorry.
1 of 2 and 2 of 2 of Planning Department, Mitch Morris, conditional use 15 through 20.
That
That's
was
a
the
different one?
original that was signed a year ago.
Okay.
What page are you on?
And now you've switched to a new one, and this is the new one is,
Those are the ones that you guys approved last meeting.
so do you give them both these packets when you give it to them, or no?
Full staff report.
He gets the full staff reports.
This
I
whole packet that
received
we have,
the
he's
staff
got
report
everything we
for
do.
today's meeting in my
So if you
morning's
have
mail.
people confused here, then what if you're the applicant?
That's why we like to have the applicants honor the conditions and sign the statements of understanding.
Okay,
But we don't, on all applicants, we don't chase them down to do it.
right. So 14 and 15 are statements of understanding.
No,
14's
14 and 15 are from the January 9th list of 15 conditions that this body approved.
I'm tracking that now.
So if you look on page 6 and 7 of the staff report,
So this,
Those numbers
that's
are.
2016 one, and the other one's 2017, is the planning department.
right, because the
first
conditions
thing,
changed from
15
2016 to
16.
2017.
Yeah.
Because of the continuations to enact 511X.
Well, what's on page 6 and 7 is currently what's been approved by the planning commission.
Correct, that's the most current.
Right, so, and those references are correct in the 3, 6, 14, 15.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't get it when I was, till I
Yeah,
looked at the.
those are what he's
measure.
currently in violation of. The recommendations is for a new set of conditions that, for the most part,
Well, and I would say.
Mirror the
I
old
would say
ones.
not, it says not compliance, it doesn't say he's in violation.
oh, not compliance, you're correct, sorry.
Okay, so let me just ask you something. So I'm 2015 to 16 and I want to be in compliance. I got porta potties. I met number, whatever. I believe my privacy fence is like everybody else's. I'm in compliance. Now I have to come back and get, number 14 is what?
Number 14 is because a continuation was due on the part of the applicant and inability to meet the conditions. So by our ordinance, they have to pay a fee per 511X.
So it's a fee for not doing his continuance. And then the next one's a statement of understanding on the conditional use permit, which he probably didn't sign, if I'm correct, because he didn't feel like he still had ordinances or things he still needed to do.
We don't know why they don't sign them. The reason we have people sign them is because they come up to the podium in front of this body and the Board of Commissioners and say, I didn't know or I don't understand.
So PJ, we're talking to Mitch about porta potties and a privacy fence, and then he had a continuance on it. And the continuance was because he didn't meet those two conditions. And then we came back and he didn't sign this statement of understanding because he probably figured he followed through with those, and why should he say, does he have to do a statement of understanding every year?
Well, let me, I guess.
Yes, I'm learning this just to learn the process, Sig. So does he have to do the statement of understanding every year?
Every time the conditions change or upon a review of a conditional use permit, we like to have people sign them because
That's my point.
It saves time at the meetings when somebody says, I never got them, I don't understand them, and it has saved a ton of time at this level and at the Board of Commissioners when we've put in the statement of understanding signed by the applicant.
If I was the applicant and I had those two things, and those things I believe I complied with, the other two wouldn't be for me to even think about, because I believe I complied. But he didn't want to do the statement of understanding, and I wouldn't have signed it either if I think those two things were complied with.
Well, I guess, I think, if we, as a planning commission, feel that the privacy fence has been met, if the porta potty is in place, and if he signs it, then 14 goes away because he's in compliance.
Right.
So,
And 15 at that point,
so to
then
me,
you
the
totally
question is,
understand what we're saying.
I don't think there's question of the porta potty, or, we can verify by taking a picture of, if it's been moved, and I'll take Mitch's word for it, they moved it. So, I mean, to me, it's a question of, does this planning commission accept what he's put up as a fence meets the conditions that we feel is appropriate for the fence? And if so, everything pretty much goes away if you sign it.
Mr. Chair, just one question on that. I like your thinking on this, and my only question would be, was it ever defined what a privacy fence was to anybody on the commission? What was required for that privacy fence? We have some ideas of what everybody might think is a privacy fence, but what was ever defined? If nothing was defined, how can we say you didn't meet the requirements if we didn't define specifically what those requirements are?
And you're getting into the conversations we've had with Mr. Morris over the last couple of months and the stuff that's in the staff report, where I did tell Mr. Morris, it's not defined. So what you need to do is come up with some ideas of what you believe a privacy fence is and come back to us with that. He never did.
But what if he felt his 8-foot fence was already sufficient?
Because before that, all the conversations that he stated was he didn't even know that condition existed.
That's bogus. It's undefined.
Right, but I take offense at your bogus comment.
Which means any applicant is at the mercy of whatever we want to decide at any given moment.
No, I disagree, because what you're missing, what I believe this body is missing, is that and it's sort of clear in here, that we work with this applicant continuously. We spend a lot of taxpayer money for this applicant.
I do understand that.
He does pay taxes, and so do I, and so do you. When privacy fence came up, staff, told the applicant, it's not defined. Never said it was.
So did you go down the road of 79 and look what everybody else had for privacy?
Hold on.
We need to get some order here. So.
Yeah, hold on. What I'm trying to get across is, we have worked with the applicant to try and get this defined. We have given him the opportunity to come to you and us with what a privacy fence was. The last conversation we had with the applicant was he was going to put a tarp over it or some type of meshing over it, which, if that was what the picture was he showed you, I don't know. And if that's what he wants to do, fine. But it was also made clear that a chain link fence could be considered privacy by some people. So I think what the planning commission is missing is that it's not defined, and the applicant was to come to the staff and to the planning commission with ideas of what to do.
Well,
it didn't happen last meeting, but he is here now doing it.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at is.
When Mitch came first up to the podium, that's what I was saying. I don't want to hear all the history stuff. I wanted to hear what your ideas were, and you showed us the picture. And quite honestly, I'll give you, this is just my opinion, not planning commission, but I mean, when the elevation of the highway makes it such that putting slats in there is not going to make a difference. In some ways, I think that can look worse in a year. And like the tarp you put over it, I think in 6 months it could be shredded and flying in the wind, and it's going to look worse. I think the fence that he had up, for given the fact that you can't screen it practically, as long as to me it's almost more like you have a security fence rather than calling it a privacy fence. I don't know, that's my two bits.
And what we're going to look to do in the future is called is screened.
I would like to see, I don't think our ordinances, don't.
Not for this one, but for others.
Yeah.
The screening is done throughout our ordinance for other items.
For the future, it's good to screen it, but make sure when you're making them screen it.
It's effective.
Right. Because that's,
unfortunately, in this case, it
the
isn't.
question, can you see it with that 8-foot, 10-foot fence? Yes.
And I said yes, yep.
Define privacy. We just need to call fences different names. Is this going to be a security fence? Is this going to be a slatted fence because of what? So I think that for being an applicant, it needs to be defined. However, I don't know where they have it in any other definitions, but just, I would look
Security
into
keeps
that.
people out, privacy keeps people from viewing what's happening on the other side. However, as is made very clear, our ordinance doesn't say that, which is why the applicant was requested to come with options.
And see, when we do commercial, and we were talking about VHR, you have to have a privacy fence if you have commercial property, not rental homes, but like a commercial property or anything next to anything, you have to have where you can't see through it. I don't know what they call it in the city. They're calling it privacy, or they're calling it 8-foot barrier or something else.
Well, and I guess, don't get me wrong, I would rather not see this there, Mitch.
Me
You know,
too.
You know, I would rather not. I would rather have nice entrances to our city. And I don't think this represents that, you know, but I just feel from a practical standpoint, as if there's a security fence there, trying to do slats or something like that, when the highway elevation, you're gonna see it into it anyway, I don't know we're accomplishing anything.
So number 3 and 6, if those were, we agreed with those, 14 would go away, right? And then 15, Mitch, you'd have to, let's spell this out for him. You have to sign, right? He has to sign a statement of understanding today
Well,
of what these conditions meant, then he moves forward and he's done.
well, let's, I guess, to me, it should be
Just a scenario.
you know, I gave my 2 bits on the item 3. I think that almost by vote, we should vote on whether what he's got as far as fence is adequate, or other, you know, if the majority feels that there needs to be more done, so let's.
Mr. Chair, I have some questions.
Rich.
The entire property is about 27 acres or something like that, and the specific location of the storage equipment, where you have the equipment stored, is that the 27 acres, or are we talking fencing the entire red delineated lined area?
No, that's never been, no, it was just around the operation area itself.
So around the operation, and then the back line is between the operation and this racetrack?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And
That's
right
always-
now,
yep.
you have a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence in the front, and is that a tarp that you put on there, or is that like a windscreen material that?
It's a screening material that they put on chain link fences for construction projects.
It's slats? It looked more solid to me.
It
No,
looked
that's
like
a screen.
tieback, black tieback is what it looked like.
It's basically a construction
Heavy.
material,
Yeah.
and it's used in the practice of where you, like I have temporary fencing that I put up around a construction site. This is screening that you can zip tie to the fence that blocks the vision. As he says, it's not a permanent, long-lasting, I mean, it can last 5 years if the wind didn't blow, but in South Dakota, that's not gonna happen. So this could last, it could be a continual maintenance thing to have it up there.
So the material isn't designed to be a permanent screen application for a fence?
I don't believe so.
Well, the suppliers
They know.
claim that it's, long-lasting, but in all reality, that's subject to conditions.
It's purposely built to put on fences?
Yes.
Or it's a modified use?
The supplier tells me that that's what it's for, and that's what I've used it for before. As far as multiple uses, I'm sure that there probably is.
Mr. Chair, do you need a motion in regard to this fence?
Well, before we do that, I guess I'd like to.
Rich is not done, sir.
Yeah,
Sorry.
let Rich finish, and Lori, you haven't had a chance to weigh in, I'd like to hear your opinion too, so.
Yeah, I have a question.
Rich, yeah.
So you have moved a porta potty then to the site from back at the racetrack?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So then item 3 item 6 has at least been taken care of. Item 14, with regard to 511 is an extension of the ordinance and is essentially a fee. That fee was, my understanding, put into the ordinances for reoccurring things that takes additional staff time, essentially, taking things longer than they need to.
Is my 14 what he's talking about here, PJ?
And so, can you tell me what that is, PJ? Is that $100? How many times has this been continued, and what would that be applied?
My understanding, though, the way it reads is if the applicant does not comply by January 23rd, which
Then we
is
do a
today.
fee.
So if we say that the fence is in compliance, the porta potties are in compliance, the only thing not in compliance that you can still do today is sign.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
14 from that meeting.
Do you understand that, Rich?
Okay.
Okay.
Rich, do you have any other questions or comments?
I think those are my specific questions. Thank
Lori,
you.
did you have anything? Give you an
Yeah,
opportunity?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would suggest that we might want to change the wording of the fence and call it a security fence and not require the screening.
Yeah.
Good point.
So we can change condition number 4 to read that noise levels be kept at a level not to be characterized as a nuisance, and then a 6-foot tall privacy fence be constructed around the property.
Security.
Security, whoops.
Security, yeah.
And you already have an 8-foot around it, right, Mitch? You
Just
said?
on the front.
Okay.
There's 6 foot on the other 3 sides. There's a portion of my west property that there's just a 5-foot wire fence there, but
Okay,
just because of the dirt work that's going on, but.
thank you.
And maybe you want to clarify that it's around, instead of around the property, maybe you want to clarify that it's around the area, you know, something that defines that area, not the
business.
entire 27 acres.
Of the business area.
Yeah.
However you define that. It's on the 27 acres, right? But you'd only fence the, I don't know how they write it in the ordinance.
Business area.
Call it.
Business area.
But then that's not defined either.
Yeah, you guys are getting into the same thing you were telling us, that it's not defined.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I do have a question
Mr.
on,
Chair,
Yeah, Lori, go ahead.
could we go ahead and call that the construction equipment sales area?
Storage and sales area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Staff would be comfortable with
Would that
that.
be definition?
Is that, I have a
I
question.
think that's
Structure
clear,
around
that's pretty
Construction.
generally understood if you say construction sales area. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the
Mr.
racetrack is an active construction sales and storage area.
Mr. Chair, could we ask the applicant what he thinks?
Sure. Rich,
Um,
how would you
My
like to define it?
questions, I'm just really wanting to clarify the fencing. So if we have it as a 6-foot security fence, I'm okay?
Yes,
Okay, I'm fine with that around the entire construction yard.
if we vote on that, yep.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair,
that's
could,
what you call it, a construction yard.
Well, my old construction yard, which is now the,
Yeah, we could call it that.
Well,
it's not what the conditional use permit is for, and Mr. Chair, if
Okay.
the applicant could
Am I
tell
part
us
of the
what he
quorum?
considers a construction yard to be.
Pretty soon, like in.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think it'd be better, I mean, the conditional use permit is for sales and storage, so I mean, it'd be better to define it in those terms, I think. And I think, I don't know, to me, when you see that layout on the fence like that, it's pretty clear that's
This is,
the yard.
and this is an older picture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fairly isolated already, correct?
And what about 15?
Current 15 or January 9th, 15?
Current fifth, well,
Current.
what was approved?
Well, they're kind of, actually both same thing. They're a statement of understanding. That
Okay.
they have to sign within 10 business days of approval.
So you understand that, Mitch?
yes.
Within 10 days, that has to be signed.
And the only issue we're talking about is fence though, correct? I mean,
Fence.
these
that's-
other conditions of
Well,
the,
that may get resolved if we vote on that and
Might
everybody's
have
in
both
agreement.
done. Depends on what they vote.
Barbie, you started offering it, well, Lori, were you done with questions and comments?
I guess my only other comment would be that I don't think it's, he should be required to have a review every 6 months. It should just be on a complaint basis.
I agree. Very good.
That would be condition 16 of the current proposed condition.
I'm willing to make a motion, but I want to know which set of conditions I'm going to make a motion on.
Well, that would be the page 9 and 10 of your current staff report.
Okay,
Where's
all
that?
right.
But there's been changes to 4 and.
So that would be the January 9th conditions.
So 3 is complied on the January 9th, 6
No.
is.
No,
They're the
no, on page,
On
starting
page
on
9
page
of-
9.
10.
On page 9,
Under,
okay.
under
all right.
recommendation.
So I would be making a motion on the staff recommendations for today, January 23rd.
Correct.
Okay,
But there's been some changes recommended to the
yeah.
conditions.
You got to help me with those. I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit review, CU 15-20, with 16 conditions, the ones that are applicable today, January 23rd, with the following changes to the conditions. Now I need help.
16 would be on a complaint basis instead of 6 months.
Okay.
That'd be your amendment. Anything else?
No further review?
Number
Only
four.
complaint only?
Number 4 is the big one.
Yeah, it's really not worded the way we looked at it on the previous 3.
The fence would be changed to, fence screening, would be changed to a security fence in number 4.
And remove
Be
screening.
oops.
With fence screening be constructed around the construction property.
Well, just 6-foot tall security fence without the screening, I
No
believe is the
screening, right.
discussion. And then the discussion was not around the property, but around the storage and sales area.
I wrote construction equipment and sales area. Is that
Construction
adequate?
yard.
Equipment, sales area. Are you getting all this, Mitch?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other changes to them?
Mr. Chair,
Lori, yes.
PJ, what is your normal review period for a CUP of this type?
If there are no concerns, you usually, after 1 year, it goes to 3.
So are you saying we should have a 1-year review and complaint basis?
We'd also have to address number 2, condition number 2 that staff put in. So if you're looking to do on complaint basis or 1 year, you'd want to take condition number 2 out.
Okay, and I'll put that in my amendment, remove condition number 2, so that there would
That help,
then
Lori?
be 15 conditions.
And then are you going to amend number 16 to include a 1-year review?
That's under discussion, I think. 1-year review, is that agreed? All right. So that would then be condition 15, presently 16, that it would be on a complaint basis or in 1 year.
And we'd still be looking for your signature, Mitch.
Yeah,
Okay.
within 10 days.
Would that be complaint basis and 1 year or complaint basis or 1 year? Because I thought you said or.
It'll be reviewed in 1 year or on a complaint basis. Is that what everybody agrees on? Okay.
Okay, just want to make sure.
That's what I
So-
want then.
Do I have a second to that?
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Rich, go ahead.
Mr. Morris, you indicate that, that you don't have the 6-foot fence all the way around it, that in some instances it's not chain link, it's just a wire or something like
Whether
that. What improvements have to be made to be in compliance with this fence change?
There's a section on the west border that it's a 6-foot fence, and I've taken a portion of it down, just put up a temporary wire fence because of my activity in and out of there. And I'm planning on putting that back up within the next 2 weeks, up where it's just wire there now.
Other than
I could
that,
show you on the-
everything has a fence around it that is at least a 6-foot tall chain link fence.
The south border's chain link, the other 2 sides were basically like a woven wire. You know, it's a little square wire that's 6 foot tall. I feel that also meets the 6-foot security fence barrier, but it's not chain link.
That fence?
No, that's actually outside of the area over into the go-kart or the little racetrack area.
Sure.
That's in the racetrack area.
Mr. Chair,
Lori.
and how would you describe that area that you think requires a security fence?
I think the way I understood it is construction sales area and storage.
Mr. Chair, but Mr. Morris was indicating that he also thinks there's another area by the racetrack that should have security fencing.
No, that's a a fence within the racetrack area that just divides one little part of the racetrack to the other part of the racetrack. Basically for keeping cows out is what it was there for, but that's outside of the construction area.
Can I use this real quick?
Okay, so is there some time frame for the construction sales and material sales area where there will be security fencing around that entire area? You mentioned something about 2 weeks.
The area that I'm speaking of is, I don't know, do I point?
No, were you planning on fencing?
That is fenced.
Is this where you plan on having the 6 foot tall fence?
Correct. On the frontage, there's a 6 foot or an 8 foot fence there now. There's 6 foot fence here and here and to here. It's removed from here to here and just wire fence right now.
I can't see where it's removed.
So let me ask the question. We were going to put up a privacy fence around all of this, and now we found he has a security fence. I thought it was for the frontage by the road. I didn't think it had to be all the way around a property.
Right.
Because he owns all that property. So why would you fence it in if you owned it? And here's a question. You're
Ma'am?
putting a security fence there as well, when he already has barbed wire fence into this. Why are you putting a security fence, unless he wants to put one? That should be his choice, because what's it going to do for the rest of us or anybody else in the first place? I'm not trying to ruin your fence dilemma, but he owns all that property. There's a barbed wire fence, and now what would be the purpose of the security fence, even from the road that you could see through? Why are you doing that?
How about this, Deb, that we make a statement that the present fencing is adequate?
Thank you.
Where can we add that?
What he wants to do on the property.
Well, and I guess to me, if you have security fence just along the front, it's not a security fence anymore.
Right.
But at the same time, to me, a woven wire fence on the backyard that he's already got, it keeps somebody out, it's a deterrent. So to me, isn't that a security fence?
You got how many acres do you own?
Well, I think we're just saying the
1,200.
red area.
Well, that's
Just
what
the
I'm
red-
saying. He has 1,200 acres, the only one that's going on this land.
And that's his property behind him anyway.
No,
or to the
but
east.
even what's in red, my understanding, that what's on the east side is not chain link. It's just like a woven wire fence, correct?
Let him do whatever
On
fence
the
he wants.
east side, it's a 6 foot woven wire fence. On the south side, it's 6 foot chain link. And on the north side, it was 6 foot woven wire, but I've taken a portion of it down. I'm putting that back up. So it will be woven wire, chain link fence around everything that's red, 6 foot to 8 foot.
Okay, so what you have today is adequate for us to say that his fencing that he has today is good?
Yeah, where can we put that in? Because I think it would be in your best interest to have that statement in here that the present fencing is adequate for this CUP.
To be able to, Mr. Chair.
Mitch isn't even saying it's not. He still wants to replace that one
He
section.
can do whatever he wants, but
Mr. Chair, we have no basis to compare that from a year from now.
on a fence?
Yeah, you
But
got
we'd have to go
pictures.
back out to the property. We don't have the pictures.
Well,
I can
Mr.,
bring pictures, yeah.
yeah,
Yep. Thank you.
TJ, I guess you're picking him. It looks picky. I know I'll tell you the truth, you've been more than helpful. You guys have been awesome in the planning department with Bitch at helping them. But when you're coming down to some of this, I think I'm seeing picking a little bit because, again, it's a fence. And if he doesn't have the rest of the fence connected, is it gonna matter? It's his property. If he wants people to take stuff off his property because he doesn't want to that's his property. We don't do that to anybody else unless we decide, city rules, and that we'd like to make people fence all the way around their businesses and, I don't know. It looks like picking.
okay.
Chair.
To number 4, if we can just add a sentence saying that the present fence is adequate for this
Mr. Chair,
condition.
Lori, go ahead.
I guess I don't think that's necessary because I think all you need to do with condition 4 is say, and that a 6 foot tall fence be constructed around the property.
I don't think,
Just remove the with fence screening.
Yeah, remove security too. I'm with you on
I'm
that,
sorry,
Lori.
security fencing, yeah, I forgot about security fencing. Just remove the with fence screening, and I think, when you go out there to investigate this, you're just looking for a 6-foot fence.
Is the seconder, is that all right with you if that, because it's okay with me?
I do, if I understand it, we have changed instead of around the property, at least defining basically the construction storage area.
Yeah, construction and equipment sales area.
So he doesn't have to fence the whole 27 acres. So.
Right. Okay.
Is everybody clear as mud?
Over a fence, dang, we got some good discussion over a fence.
Anyway.
Well, I'm good with that suggested change as the person making the motion if the seconder
Travis,
is.
you were the seconder, are you?
I am the seconder. I just have a question. Does Mitch understand, and where does he stand on what we've made a motion in a second? Do you understand it?
Yes, I do, and I appreciate your common sense approach.
Okay, I stand by my second. I want to make sure we're all clear as mud, as you said.
Well, we have motion second, clarification, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I may have missed this, but I just want to make sure about condition 1. Is he going to be paying an additional fee or not?
I guess my interpretation of what we were saying, if the porta potty's been taken care of, if we agree on the fence, as we just discussed, and if he signs the statement of understanding, then the 14 goes away because he is in compliance at this point in time.
Well, number one.
I'm talking about condition 1.
Yeah, 1. Lori's
Does
right.
condition 1 also go away?
Conditional use permit B for construction equipment sales and construction material sales only.
We've been continuing this since December, correct?
Yeah, we've continued, so. What would that,
I'm on the
PJ,
wrong
what would
one.
that cost be?
$100 cash.
You're talking today, $100. And that's
Barb,
all.
did you take that out in your motion, or did you
No, I
keep
did
it?
not.
Okay.
And I'm liable to say that, there has been work that has been done on this, but there hasn't been, let's clarify it, come in here like he is today.
Yeah.
So I'm of the mindset that there is a recourse for the staff to spend time that they have done, and the printing, and us preparing and reading and taking our time. I'd like to keep it in for that. It's not a overly large sum.
I agree. It's worth they put some time into this.
I don't have
Mitch,
a
so-
problem with that.
Okay.
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 I'm good with that too.
Lori, anything further?
No, that was only my only
Okay.
question.
Well, we motion second, we have further discussion, so,
No, fine.
roll call at this point, so.
Lori,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Sig.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
No problem. We're always here.
Item 15.
Item 15 is ordinance amendment 1602 for alternative energies. We're asking for it to be continued to the next planning commission meeting. Because staff met with the representatives from the regional airport and Ellsworth, and they have some additions and some changes that they're proposing to the ordinance. However, a lot of conversation was had about as far as the 1.1 setback requirements that existed in the ordinance, and just happened to stumble across during some research an article from the internet about why 1.2 and 1,000 feet will not protect public safety and health and safety, and it had some pretty good insight.
Mr. PJ, sorry,
ma'am.
just a sec, sir. I have to go to work.
Okay,
Sorry.
Well-
If you still have quorum, right?
yes.
We're still going to
We're
discuss
good.
this, so.
Yep.
Do you have the video? The
Yes,
info?
in Holly's office, I left it for you.
Okay, have you seen it then?
I haven't yet.
Oh, then you keep it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Sorry about that, guys. Thank
So-
you for serving.
So there's some discussion in here, even a proposal of 5 times the rotary diameter from the property line. So I figured that we could at least have a little discussion about that,
I do appreciate you supplying that, because this addresses the exact concerns why I brought that up at the last meeting, is because, even if people remember our fire station on Highway 16, off that tower were having ice issues, damaging cars and property and stuff like that. And so now you got a rotating blade with
That's
tips
throwing
going
ice.
at 200 miles an hour, that ice is gonna fling, I would guess, fairly well. So I don't think just ice, but I mean, there are, you know, and what you've documented, and I've seen videos of, you know, when one fails, and it's pretty catastrophic when it fails. And it's, I don't think it's just within the fall distance of the tower, so. So I do appreciate you supplying this information, so.
I did notice that there was a lot of areas that kept it at 1,400 or greater, and I thought that was very, very interesting.
I thought, I guess just kind of, just reading through this, I guess one of the things that I thought may be is kind of keep it at, where you're just under the quarter mile. So when you have your quarter sections and all that, it's more easily defined as far as what the separation should be. You know, and I think, you know, one of the things I didn't think of that I thought this was interesting is, you know, if somebody's allowed to put it right against their property line, and basically what they're saying is the prop wash from the windmill prevents the next person from putting a windmill on their property because they are not gonna get effective wind. So if you allow it too close to the property line, all of a sudden you're basically allowing someone else the ability to do the same thing you wanna do.
And this is for utility scale, is
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Yeah,
The big
utility
ones, not
scale, right.
the residentials.
But I thought it was very interesting, so. But I think there may be some logic to, I mean, I think a lot of the towers are now around 350, right? Probably.
Don't know, we don't have any that I know of.
I think, well, some of them are more eastern South Dakota or something like that. So I mean, you know, if you're going 4 or 5 times that, you're in the range of the quarter mile, and you know, we do a lot of things by quarter and the 40-acre sections. And so, I mean, there may be some logic to using the, just under, you know, a quarter mile as a limit. Just a suggestion, so.
Quarter miles, exactly how many feet?
1320?
1320, yep.
1320?
I was
That's-
thinking about, you know, like 1,200 feet, you know, maybe somewhat short of the quarter mile. So I mean, you have, you know, you're not right. Sometimes you have anomalies on section lines where there's adjustments and all that. So I mean, sometimes it's not a true quarter mile on a quarter.
Right.
Would you want to use that as the quarter mile?
To the property line, not to the.
Okay, because there's other categories too, so.
That 1,300-foot range is kind of what I was thinking at after seeing a lot of this other reading, doing a lot of other reading on it.
Mr. Chair, and maybe this is a question for PJ, what's the path forward on this? Are we going to take out some of these and add these as recommendations to the ordinance?
Yeah, basically it's in the hands of the planning commission, so whatever changes you want to recommend, you would do that. And then we would take, when you're finished with it, ultimately, and it won't be today, we would take it before the Board of Commissioners.
But as it sits today, we're going to continue it to,
at least the next meeting.
at least the next meeting?
For the new additions, yep.
Okay, and that's to allow a consultant to come and discuss it then?
No, we've actually spoken with representatives from Ellsworth and the regional airport, and they have some additions and changes they'd like to make, more so in the airport, airspace.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
But we brought the 1.1 up because that was actually a long discussion last meeting.
So are we going to change the
Mr.
1.1?
Chair,
Lori.
do you want a motion then to continue this to the next meeting?
Yeah, but Travis was wanting to make a comment too, so.
Oh, I was just trying to clarify, if you didn't mind, Mr. Chair, that are we talking right now, the 1.1 that's already currently in there, we're talking about adjusting that and putting something else right now? Is that what we're talking about
That was my
today?
understanding. If you want to make a motion to change it, you can. If not, it can just be discussion only.
Well.
Not, it continues on where it
As
currently
1.
stands as a 1.1.
Until next meeting, or if you change it, yeah.
What I was under the understanding is just discussion today without a motion to change it, and you're looking for a motion to continue it, and then when we re-look at it, that's when we would add the changes.
You can.
On distances.
Sure.
What I
That'll
would
work.
suggest, so. Give us a little more time to kind of digest some of this too, so.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue this to the,
Lori, you were starting to make a motion, or did you have
were you,
a?
Lori? Sorry.
No, I was just asking the question. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue, what do we call it?
OA 1602,
There it is, yeah, OA 1602 till the
February
first
13th.
February 13th meeting, okay.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I guess roll call.
Lori,
Aye.
Rich, Sig,
Aye.
Travis,
Aye.
Barbara.
Aye.
Motion carried. So, item 16.
Item 16 is discussion and possible motion for meeting with the consultant on February 3rd, 2017. Matrix Design Group will be coming here for their first meeting on February 13th. And so we're looking for a representative from the Planning Commission to meet with them. From right now, it seems like it's going to be from 3:30 to 4 o'clock because they have a plane to catch at 5:30.
And I'm on vacation all next week. I'm not available. Lori is down in Phoenix still, right? Next.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, but I could Skype, and that's on February 3rd if you need me to.
I can probably make it.
Mr. Chair, what time was the time frame?
3:30 to 4.
Right now, it
No,
sounds
to
like that's what
5.
it's going to be,
Right.
3:30 to 4.
Just to 4?
Yep.
Oh,
Because they have packed meetings from 8 a.m. until they have to
Okay.
leave.
What would the agenda be?
What day of the week is that?
Friday.
It's Friday.
I can commit to that.
I could as well, so either way.
And they're looking for just a single representative, or are they looking for a committee?
They're looking for one.
Well, then Travis, you can do it if you, yeah.
Go
Oh, now we're gonna fight over.
I didn't know if the plan, I
That's
didn't know
fine.
if
It
the
doesn't matter
planning
to me.
commission wanted to choose who goes or how you want it to be
Will
done.
you be downtown anyway?
I will be downtown. That's why I was looking at my calendar. I was like, I can because I will be in
Then
town.
Travis will do it.
Well, and Lori's vice
Yeah.
chair, so I
If she would
mean,
like to.
in
Right.
some ways, I would almost, if I can't be there, and I can't, I guess I would defer maybe to the vice chair first.
That's fine.
But Lori, I guess that's, if you want to attend by Skype, or, I mean, if, I don't know how the matrix feels if they.
They Skyped in during their hearings of their
Okay.
contract, so I don't think they'd be against it.
So obviously, they don't object to Skype meetings.
They
so.
did it themselves.
And I'm not taking it
Nope,
away,
absolutely.
but I mean, just, as far as just kind of a little more history on the planning commission too, and some of our discussion, maybe Lori would have a little more of that too, so. Lori?
No, that's fine with me. You just tell me if you want me to participate.
Pardon me?
It's fine with me. I can participate on the 3rd from 3:30 to 4.
And
Do you want?
I guess just let me know if there are certain issues you want addressed or questions you want to ask
Yeah,
prior to the meeting.
Yeah, they have a series of questions that they are proposing to the commissioners that are going to meetings, so I'll send those to you as well. Yep, and a half hour is probably more than enough time for what they want to do. It's just a kickoff
Okay, I'll just
meeting.
plan on that.
Okay. And even though the agenda says it's February 3rd, 2017, we're looking for next week.
Oh.
I just.
And just,
Gonna be pretty old by then.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just out of curiosity, even though she's going to be the representation, can I go if there's not going to be a quorum, just so I can hear and learn? Would that be out of the order? I'd be quiet.
I'd want to check with, if you don't mind, I'll check with Matrix and see how they want to do it. Because when they're meeting with the commissioners, it's just the commissioners. One at a time, let's put it that way. They want to meet with leadership first. They'll be back plenty of times in the next 18 months. But I'll check with Rich and see what he feels. If he says okay,
Yeah.
No worries.
I would
just
have
looking
no
to learn. Okay
objection
with it?
if Matrix has no objections on that, so.
okay. If they don't and you don't, then it's fine.
I don't know if
Okay.
I could answer any of their questions. I'm so new. I just want to hear the process.
Well, and I know Lori's been involved in negotiating consultant agreements, so you'd probably have some background on that too, so.
We'll work it out,
You
Lori.
need a motion to that effect? You said possible.
No, if you guys are okay without it, it's fine. So put possible motion. I didn't know if you wanted to or not.
I think we're all on board, so,
Okay.
okay. County Board report?
The Board of Commissioners concurred with the Planning Commission's recommendations from the January 17th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.
Items from the public.
Joyce Shagru. My comments are referring to the new vacation home rental ordinance. We're in a new era here because for the first time, we will be relating to suburban residential districts, which have this, as you know, the smallest lots, smaller lot sizes. First of all, my understanding is that those CUPs that were approved prior to the effective date of the new ordinance will be reviewed using the old ordinance as the one was today. So they will still be under the purview of the old ordinance. But SIG told me that they can come in and request that their conditions be changed to conform to the new ordinance. So because some of them will be years out probably. So there is an option for them. For example, if they want to be under the new ordinance for change of ownership, which I can see is a real important one for some people, that they can do that by coming in and applying or asking to do that.
PJ, I'm assuming, is that correct, that they could ask for their review to be accelerated or basically almost like a new application, but they could request a different to come back in, correct?
If they'd like to, sure.
And for example, the number of day guests, might impact some of them. So if they would come in and ask for a review, it's not according to the schedule that's set out, but then you would consider updating them to the new ordinance. That was my understanding. And did I get that correct?
Well, that's my understanding is any conditional use permit can ask for a change of conditions and apply to make that and be heard, so.
And Mr. Chair, if I may ask a question too. So if I understand correctly, we set it up to 1 acre property. Is that correct, even in suburban residential?
Yep.
Okay, so if someone comes in and they're in a smaller piece of property and they ask for an update to, let's just say, the number of individuals that can come, the day guests, would they only ask for that one particular piece, or do they have to then come in compliance with the whole new?
I would think they'd have to be in compliance with the new.
If you open up one change, you're opening up the
to
entire
all.
thing.
So essentially, they could essentially make themselves null and void to having it if they're opening themselves up.
We
for
would
change.
tell them that before they proceed.
Or could they become legal nonconforming? Because we usually don't penalize those.
It would be legal nonconforming, but if they're adding extra day guests, they're increasing the nonconformity, thereby
Well, we
making
do
a
that on
violation.
all conditional use permits. If a house is legal nonconforming and they want to put an addition on, all of a sudden it opens up everything.
Okay.
They're no longer legal nonconforming.
So could they be in jeopardy of losing it then?
Yes, they could be.
Probably would be.
So are those folks in a bind then, for example, with the change of ownership?
They could
They
be.
can't conform if they can't.
They're legal nonconforming to the old standards. The ones that they were currently done under. The day guests you were talking about.
But Joyce is saying if they want to change the ownership issue only and they're legal nonconforming and other things that they basically
Like size of
couldn't
lot.
change the ownership provisions because they'd be less than, let's say they're less than an
Less than
acre.
an acre, which
Would take
some of
out
them are.
Yeah, we'd have to see when that one comes up. They can always request a variance.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and so the reason I'm speaking to you today is in my old world of work, I didn't like to relate to what ifs because they weren't real. I said, don't have me relating to what ifs. But maybe, unless they've already done this in a staff, maybe they do need to sit down and work through some of these what if and have a position on them, not waiting until each one comes up. That, I think, sort of plan ahead. Because with the SRDs, lot size is going to be the big issue, okay? So we know if they're an acre or larger, that's okay. But if they're under an acre, we all know, or those of you who have been around this very long know that we have very creative minds out there. And they come up with very creative ways to circumvent the ordinance. And so the one within the new ordinance that they'll want to circumvent is the 1 acre lot, because that's a restriction. The rest of the changes are a relaxation of the old ordinance. So I don't think any of those will be an issue. It will be the lot size. And so that's why I was so interested in the 2 lots this morning that were development lots. And that's clear and that's in writing. But I would guess that over time, we're going to see some more creative thinking about lot size. And so my suggestion is that the staff put their heads together and get their minds in the mode of circumventing the ordinance and come up with those ways that those folks out there are going to use. So, and make decisions on them. Is this going to be okay or isn't it? And I don't know the rules enough to know what avenues might be out there to, for example, combine 2 lots. If they combine them into one, then it's a 1 acre lot or over. So that would be one way that they could combine 2 lots. It'd be 1 lot of 1 acre or more, and it would conform. So my suggestion is that the staff was where I would start if I were directing this. Think of ways that folks are going to come up, because they are. They're very creative. And we're dealing with SRD now. We're dealing with the group that's the smallest lot size. And we know that they want to develop VHRs in SRD. And then as they come up with ideas or policies or directives or whatever you call them here for decision making, so by the time it comes to you, they already know what they're going to recommend because they've done this work before. Put those in writing. As you make your decisions, so be sure those are in writing so that we can be consistent, that we don't treat one differently than the other. And I know they try very hard now. I've seen it change over the last, say, 6 years to be very consistent, and ask the staff, have we done this before or whatever. But that's my thought today, is those creative thinkers are going to be out there. I know some who have 2 lots. It's very common. They buy 2 lots so that they can build a structure on it. Usually the structure straddles both lots. However, sometimes it doesn't. So the structure's on one small lot. The next one may be vacant. It's a good side yard, okay? Is that viewed as 1 lot or 2 lots? Now they can combine those and make 1 lot, and then, of course, the question is answered. So that's my thought today after listening to the one that was under review and the new one that came up today, is plan ahead.
This is more a public comment. It's not really intended to be a question answer like you and I talked about, but I'll offer some. I don't think they can do developmental lots now and put a house in the middle of a lot line after the adoption in 1994. So I don't think they can put it in the middle of a lot line. The other thing is, I would say, is just overall about the what ifs is, I think the staff's going to have their hands full with the comp plan, and the comp plan could come out something with the VHR. So I mean, I guess I hope the staff, that's their highest priority right now, is the comp plan revisions, and it may incorporate something with the vacation home rentals. So.
Mr. Chair, I have to go. Are there any other items that need to be acted on?
Just adjournment, probably.
Okay.
So.
Okay, well, I'll just watch.
We still have a quorum.
And see if they come forward. I think there's one way.
Why don't you come up with a list? You've got a creative mind.
I've learned to, Barb. Yeah. I didn't, but I've learned to, because I found out that's what people do. I think there's one waiting out there. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Items
from staff. Items from membership. If not, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to remind you that I will not attend the February 13th meeting, but I will be there for the February 27th meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion on adjournment? We're adjourned. Thank you. Do we need a roll call on the adjournment?
Oh, yes. Lori?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Sig?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
Barb?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Did you ever get an A